After I left university, the chairman of KISM was my first boss. This Kalani here. So actually, Kalani is my mentor, and he's my boss. And in the hierarchy of things, Kalani is actually my senior. Like in the legal profession, where they call each other senior, me I call Kalani senior. Because he taught me how to buy. I found him, or we found each other at Kenya Breweries Limited when I was a procurement assistant. And he introduced me into the business. So Kalani, I'm still loyal. And you are still my boss. So when I was invited here, I was given a speech by my DG, Mr. Joe. When I went through it, I said, oh, because the issues, the things which I was supposed to say here, I believe you must have gone through those issues. Because we've been here for the last 5 or so days. So I avoided the risk of repeating myself. Because that can be very risky. Or saying things which are not aligned to what you've agreed on within those few days. Again, getting into even a much bigger risk. And as a regulator, I must be wise. I must avoid some of those obvious risks. So I decided that we are just going to engage. Just have a talk, a chat. As members of the same family. Because as a family, there are issues which we can discuss in-house. Family members discuss their issues in-house before they go to extended families and before they go to the community. So we are the members of the procurement community in this country. And I know we have discussed issues properly guided by the Public Procurement Act, well anchored, allowed, the Constitution, Article 227. And actually you are the authors yourselves of the act because you are very experienced. Most of you, I believe you are nearly all of you are heads of procurement. You are likely to be 40 years and above, a good number of you. Because for you to grow all the way, you must have seen a couple of years, done a couple of years in the profession. So we as regulators, and especially myself, have no business teaching you how to buy or how to manage supply chain. Because that's your business. But I've been allowed. So you know that? I've been allowed. And I've been about. So I've been allowed and about. I've been in the profession. I've been in politics. I've been in many things. I'm now in regulatory. So I've been allowed and about. And I think procurement is not just about the Public Procurement and Disposal Act. That's a very small element of procurement. Procurement is a bigger animal. It's a broader animal. And procurement is not just a function. Now, procurement sits right at the center of our socio-economic activities, socio-political economic activities. It is not just a function. It is bigger than a function. It is not like finance. It is bigger than finance. It is not like HR. It is bigger than HR. And that's why it has even evolved from buying to supply chain. It's an animal. Supply chain is everything. Am I not right? It denotes from head to head. Finance is not called finance chain or something chain. HR is not called HR chain. Is it called so? The ordinary profession, which is a chain, is actually your profession. It is supply chain. It is from head to head. Everyone is inside there, including finance people, including HR people. Everybody is inside you people. It is supply chain. It is not supplies. But finance, and I'm not demeaning them, is finance. HR is HR. Engineering is engineering. But we are a supply chain. That means that we are nearly everything. Because if you are a chain and you are head to head, then you are practically everything. So if you are everything, then you're in a very dangerous position. Because most likely, everything is required from you. When you become everything, more is required of you. Nearly everything is required of you. So, we need to reflect as procurement professionals. And we realize our strategic role, our strategic position in the socio-economic activities, environment of this country. And when I say socio includes political. It is that blood. And you cannot run away from it. And even if you attempt to run away from it, some natural forces will bring you back into it. So what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that as supply chain professionals, we are at the center of everything which happens in this country, including politics. That is not in the books. KISM, you never examine you on that. But it is a fact. Because you spend 30% of our national budget. You people seated in this hall. If we have a national budget of 4 billion, about 30%, which translates to about 1 point something trillion, sorry, not billion, we are the people who spend that money. That is from head to head. That is not a mean responsibility. You're not accounting for it, you are actually spending it. You're not employing people to spend it the way HR person does. You're actually spending it. That is very serious. How can one person be that powerful? He's a chain. Huh? And that mutu is you. So you can imagine who you are when you're seated there. When KLA collect revenue, they bring that 30% to you for you to spend, including external financiers. So when the government collect revenue and borrow from outside, they dedicate those resources to the men and women who are in this room for you to spend. What kind of responsibility is that? That's a huge, huge, huge responsibility. None in this country is bestowed with that level of responsibility. That's a sacred space. A sacred responsibility. And we usually take it for granted. I know. You think you're an employee. You're not just an employee. You are spending machine. You're not just an employee who is reporting to work in the morning. You're actually a spending machine. The way a flour mill, you put maize in a flour mill, it clashes that maize into unga. You are the mill. You can imagine. So in our environment, the government environment, you sit at a very central place. So people fight about budget, leading of the budget. They talk about collection of revenue. Lakini hiyo pesa yote inapelekwa to you people to spend. And that's why I'm saying you need to reflect and ask yourself, how effective are we? And not necessarily guided by Public Procurement Act, but guided by social expectations. Because the act is a product of social expectations. Not just a constitution, but expectations. What do people expect from us? Not necessarily what the Public Procurement and Disposal Act expect from us. Truly not that. Because that space is bigger than Public Procurement Act. That space is actually constitutional. Article 227, a very broad thing. And that's where you get the expectation from. It is not from the act, it is from the constitution. Open, transparent procurement. A very simple expectation. That is so simple. And you know, the makers of the constitution were looking at the broader view. The constitution comes from the people directly. We, the people, expect open, fair, transparent procurement. They don't expect people to follow Public Procurement Act. The Constitution cannot say that. That is an enabler. We want open, free, open, transparent. That is the Constitution. That's what we, the people, said. That's what we want. And if you look at the problems which has been bedeviling this country, we always say they are political. Or the economic problems. But if you look at it critically, they are procurement problems. They are not necessarily political problems. If you sieve and think deep, they are not political problems. Neither are they essentially economic problems. But they are fundamentally procurement problems. I know it might not sound very sweet, but I'm telling you, that is the truth. What are Kenyans fighting for? Today, if you tell Kenyans that you're going to do a dam, a water dam, they'll tell you don't do it. If you tell Kenyans you want to expand Jomo Kenyatta Airport, hey, they don't do it. Eh? If you want to do a super highway, please, we don't want it. Don't do it. Not we don't want it. Don't. Eh? What is that? Is it true that they don't want it? Bias. Is it true that Kenyans don't want a super highway? Kenyans don't want water. Don't want the dam? No, they want. But they don't trust the process. which will be deployed in the delivery of that project. That is the only problem. They want water, but they don't trust the system, the process. So they would rather actually miss water other than experience that process. Isn't that dangerous? Isn't that extremely dangerous? When Gen Zs are saying we don't want this, it's not that they don't want. No. They don't trust the process. When people say we don't want affordable housing, that's not what they are saying. They want housing. Because when you deploy affordable housing, it's oversubscribed. So surely they didn't want it? They didn't want it. They wanted it. But they are passing a different message. When you put in water, they will drink that water. They use water for irrigation. So they didn't want it? They wanted it. But they are passing a different message. They tell you don't want SHA. But when they go to the hospital and they are told SHA will meet your 150,000 shillings out of the total cost. Oh, they say this is very good. But when you tell them, they tell you we don't want SHA. So surely somebody is cheating the other. There is a problem. And that is a problem which we must diagnose. Because if we don't diagnose it properly, then we shall be treating symptoms. Tuko pamoja? Mr. and Madam Buyers, are we together? So, listening to Kenyans, we must listen to them with our hearts. And we must ask ourselves, which Lord are we supposed to be praying? What Kenyans are telling us is that we are not trusting your processes. They're not telling you that they don't want those projects. And if you ask Kenyans, and I said we are in-house, what is the problem with this country? You know what they say? Corruption. Is that what they say? I'm not saying we are corrupt or you are corrupt. I'm saying what they say. And it is dangerous that even an old mother who sometimes, most probably, never went to school can say that. That's very dangerous. Because it becomes a social norm, a concept. And it is very dangerous. And what do they tell us? How do they measure the level and the degree of corruption? And they have no tools. They don't work in our offices. And if you ask them, so why are you saying there's corruption in Kenya? They will not talk about finance department. Now do you want to a pesa? Wanasema pesa zinapotea, but they will not talk about finance department. They will not talk about engineering department. Studio. They will not talk about HR department. But they believe it is procurement department. That is very dangerous. You know that's dangerous. Kwani tumenyamaza? Kwani it's not dangerous to the profession? Not to you, but it's very dangerous to you. Until ilifika mahali whereby procurement courses were oversubscribed in universities. Until very fast, people started doing masters in supply chain and logistics, masters of science in procurement. It became a science. Shifted from just a pure liberal art subject into a science because it became very attractive and very popular. Jomo Kenyatta University College, I think it kicked off a very attractive Master of Science in Supply Chain. And I've done interviews. People come very proud. They always believe with that they'll get a job. I have Masters of Science in Supply Chain and Logistics. That sounds very good. And it's a very good lyric. But what I'm trying to say is that there has been an attraction. So what is the problem? The problem is not you people. No. The main problem is actually perception. The main problem, the real problem is perception. And it has been well circulated, it has been properly consumed, and it has been well and finally digested. So, the problem which we have is lack of trust. Simple lack of trust. Whereby people don't trust the process. And they will tell you that they don't trust the president. They will tell you they don't trust so and so. They can say many things. But what they say is that we don't trust the procurement process. That's what they say. But then that can be tuned to mean many things. So it can mean they don't trust Iria. It can be tuned to mean they don't trust William Ruto. It can be translated to mean they don't trust the head of procurement. It can mean many things. But the centerpiece of that is lack of trust. And that is a problem that we are facing. We have very advanced public procurement and disposal laws. The act is very deep. It has been revised, amended again, fixed, panel beaten. It is one of the best in the world. Anchored on a very strong constitutional platform. But they still don't trust. Even if we amend it again, they will still not trust. Guys, what is the problem then? A perfect law, amended very, very, very many times, and still not evoking trust. Then there must be something else. So what is the problem? Because you are the buyers. Huh? You know we must talk. Acha hiyo mambo ya kuandika vitabu na kufanya mambo mengi hapo. What is the truth? Najua is very good to be a good buyer, a serious buyer. Weko kwa ofisi, hizi miko, regulator ako, but I still trust deficit. Wali mtu anasema anataka damu lakini hataki. Anataka maji lakini hataki damu. Anataka kutibiwa lakini hataki SHA. Anataka kuishi kwa nyumba lakini hataki housing. Is that normal? That is a problem. And we must resolve that equation. And we have to be very sincere. The biggest animal, the problem is they don't trust procurement processes. That one is categorical. Si mimi nakanga huko nje. Mimi ni mtu amekaa huko nje like a wild animal. Mimi najua what is happening. They don't trust procurement processes. But we have a world-class public procurement act. Anchored on a very strong constitutional platform. So what is the problem? Mimi mtu mmoja tu aniambie. Sasa nataka tuongee kidogo. I hope I'm not wasting your time. What is the problem? Because hata tukikaa hapa miezi 10 and we don't nail it, hakuna kitu kitafanyika, tutarudi huko kwetu. Na shida zitaendelea. Hata tukifanya nini, tukikaa hapa na tuitwe sasa tupelekwe ng'ambo, tufanye mkutano kama hii Koradan, nyingine ipelekwe New York, nothing will change. So what I'm trying to say is that we need to be part players in making sure that we also manage, because this country belongs to all of us, guys. You can belong to whichever political persuasion. That is good, because that is democracy, that is politics. You belong, and it's democratic, and it's constitutional. But we must remember that this country belongs to all of us, and we are the guardians, we are the current guardians of this economy, of this country, of our people. Hakuna mtu mwingine atakuja. Hata uchaguzi itafanywa nyingine na nyingine, hakuna mtu atakuja. Na nyinyi kwanza, you are better than politicians, because serikali itakuja, iende, nyingine ikuje, iende, naachwa kwa ofisi. Wengine wenu hapa lazima mlikuwa kwa serikali ya Kibaki, si ndio? Serikali ya Mheshimiwa Uhuru Kenyatta, serikali ya William, sijui kama kuna mtu ambaye alikuwa kwa serikali ya Arap Moi. Lakini most likely ako. Na Arap Moi alienda kitambo. Napumzika huko, Mungu amlaze pema. Kitambo. But you are still buying. You are still serving this nation. So your survival is not dependent on the current political dispensation. And therefore, you must do your best every time, all the time, irrespective of the political persuasion of the day. That is your role. Ndio sababu ulikuwa hapo wakati wa Arap Moi, pengine wameenda, wameretire. Wakati wa Uhuru Kenyatta, wa Kibaki, wa Uhuru Kenyatta, because wewe huko hapo kwa sababu ya siasa, si ndio? But you have a bigger responsibility, much more than the politicians. This noise which is there, we are the cause. Whether we like it or not, I know self-preservation, self-protection, and I'm not accusing anybody. I'm speaking my mind because I'm free. You cannot speak your mind if you want. But by and large, we are the cause. People believe that they don't get value for their money. And that's why you find them resisting. The youth believe that they're not getting opportunities. Despite AGPO, 30% dedicated. If you dedicate 30% of 1.2 trillion, that is how much? 360 billion. That belongs to them by law. So why are the youth complaining? Why is Gen Z rioting? And 30% of 1.2 trillion is 600 and something billions. A check, open check, provided for by the exchequer. Why are they complaining? You know, we must think hard. Kwa nini unapiga kelele? Why are they rioting? Why are they saying that they have been neglected? Surely. That is their money. That's their check. It is legal. It is provided for. We are the facilitators. Where is that money? Who is going with that money? Who is stealing from the youth? I know it's always wamepata, but if you really drill down, deep down, wamepata kweli. Can you put them in a stadium na wainue mikono waseme we are beneficiaries? And that is a dedicated budget. That money can silence them, guys. I'm only giving an example, but it can. If we can be able to really say these are the people, actual human beings, youth, women, and people with disability, and we can put them in a stadium and say these people are the beneficiaries, not blockers. Waende kwa uwanja. Right now, if I say, I'm only giving hypothetical, I'm being very hypothetical, so don't worry about me. And I belong in most things that I will say. So you have to forgive me. I'll be damn long. But if you call people in a stadium, in a particular county, and you say, leo ni siku ya beneficiaries wa AGPO, dialect beneficiaries, tunawaita kwa uwanja. Name it, Afraha, Ihula, whichever, in a stadium, tutakutana na wao hii siku. Kila mtu confess ile amepata. Out of 600 and something billions, how many will turn up? Na tuseme hao watu wataletwa na heads of procurement, kwa sababu wao ndio waliwapatia hiyo kazi, hao ndio wanawajua. Kwa hivyo tumewapatia mabasi, mulete hao watu kwa stadium, kwa sababu nyinyi mnawajua, kwa sababu mliwapatia biashara na mna majina yao na mna contact zao na mnawajua, they are youth. Tunakutana na wao particular day in a particular field. Na tuseme tutakuwa tunakutana na wao hapo tukiwapatia check. How many would turn up? Buyers? It's a profession in the act. How many would each head of procurement bring in that stadium, so that we deal with the youth problem? I might be boring, but I know what I'm saying. It's businessmen and brokers who would attend that meeting. Naona tumzee tumekuja kama Mwangi wa Iria amekuja, nasimama pale anaangalia kama anaonwa. Lakini that stadium you will not find any youth. Whose problem is that? Hiyo ni shida ya nani? And the current main problem which we are facing is a youth problem. Hiyo shida ni ya nani? Mimi sitetei mtu mimi, lakini shida ya nani? Hiyo ni shida ya William Ruto. Unajua nikisema hivyo wewe unafikiria siasa. Mimi sifikiri siasa hapo. Mimi nauliza a professional question. Na hata kama rais mwingine angekuwa kwa hiyo kiti ningeuliza hiyo swali tu. Tumepewa idhini, tumepewa pesa, tumepewa sheria, tupatia watu pesa, hawapati, lakini kesho yake tunaenda kuchukua placards. What I'm trying to say is that we have a lot to pray, and we must be very, very careful to see where we are the ones who are letting everyone down. That would be the biggest risk. And we must sit and agree, how do we mitigate that risk? So in short, what I'm trying to say is that there is a huge trust deficit. Na hii kongamano Bwana Karani na sisi, si ndio? And other stakeholders, we must sit and crack the trust deficit equation. That is the only problem that we have. Sheria iko, mambo mzuri iko, nyinyi mmesoma, you made the law, you are good people, you are honest people, but there's trust deficit. Mwananchi haamini. Ni sisi wenyewe tunaamini. We are pleasing ourselves. Mwananchi haamini. Hata akiingia hapo nje ya procurement office hakuangi anaamini. Unaona anakaa hivi anaangalia chini. Haamini. How do we make them waamini? Because that is the only problem. Mimi nataka mtu mmoja tu aniambie tu. Just two people. Wataamini namna gani? So that they can have a buy-in and so that they can encourage projects to be carried out and so that they can say, yes, we are the beneficiaries of these projects and our hard-earned money which goes into taxation is being properly utilized. Because the moment they say that, we have a harmonious, good, happy nation. Wakisema hivyo. Na pesa iko. Every year, budget inasonga juu. Kwa hivyo, si ati hakuna pesa. Pesa iko. Lakini hawaamini. Si ati hakuna projects ziko. Lakini pia, si mnanunua projects. Lakini pia hawaamini. So, to me, if as buyers of this nation, we can be able to resuscitate trust, then we should be the greatest buyers that this nation will ever have. Ili wakituangalia, they don't see us as agents of destruction of value, but they see us as pillars of prosperity. And because I want to finish, this is what I think. Sometimes what they hear is not the reality of things. But what is the verification process? If they are told that you bought Bilo pens, one at 1,000 Kenya shillings, how do they verify that you didn't do that? Surely. Na uongo itakuwa mwingi, na fitina itakuwa hapo, na kutakuwa na, lakini that is a message which will be consumed. You will never gain trust. And that is what we really need to mitigate against. When EACC is told, wewe ni mwizi, how do you escape that? Utaweka kwa hiyo Land Rover, utaenda kwa revolving door. Unaona hako kwa revolving door hapo? Hako kana revolve hivyo. Utarevolve hapo mara mingi. Mtu akiingia hapo, usipochunga unarudi, unatoka nje. Lazima umark ili uingie. Because the revolving door. You'll be there so many days, so many times. Na wengine hata unakosa kufanya kazi, kichwa inaruka, unaanza kuwa mzee haraka na unapata blood pressure as the ultimate reward after working so hard. So how do you mitigate that? How do you make the public believe or say that a Bilo pen was not bought at 1,000 Kenya shillings, one single stick? And the reality is that it was a packet with how many? 24? There are so many inside there. It's bought, they are bought, but it is said, it is at, and most likely it is one box going at 1,000. So who do the maths? When will the maths be done? When will the outcome of that calculation be communicated? The message you have gone. So Nimeuliza swali. How do we deal with that trust issue? Because, we can't teach you how to buy. You are lecturers, you are teachers. You are the ones who have written the procurement book. But how do you deal with it? Huh? Because that is the only thing, let me tell you, friends. Hakuna shida nyingine. Na hata mtu akikuona if you are the head of procurement in a county, anaona wewe kama mtu mbaya sana. Ukifanya kitu kidogo anasema ni pesa zake umetumia. Lakini mtu accounts akifanya ni pesa za sio za serikali, si ndio? Engineer akifanya sio za serikali. Lakini the head of procurement akifanya unaona. When oversights are talking about corruption, they focus on heads of procurement. Not that they are long. That is the information which is out there still. That is the perception. And also, you are the custodian of the 30% of the national budget, whereby that money is engaged in procurement. So to me, if we can clean that and continue doing our good job, then we shall be good to go. And I'll now get into the reason as to why I came here. And I know I might be preaching to the converted, and I am also might be preaching to doubting Thomases. And that is allowed. EGP. It's a new animal in the game. But I want to tell you something. All those things which we are talking about, EGP is not coming to change the way you do your business, most likely. No. EGP is simply coming to deliver trust. That's that. Nothing is changing, friends. Nothing is changing. It is openness. And that's what Kenyans are complaining about. Because they believe that if the government is doing a dam, the tender is already missed. That's a belief. Even before you start, at the point of inception, even when you mention about it, wanasema no. Lack of trust. Lack of openness. Why do we trust Safaricom? They handle billions, trillions of our money. We even give them money to forward on our behalf. We even save with them. Why do we trust them? And it's big. Their CEO or their employees are heavily paid because it's in public domain. But we are okay. Why are we okay? Why do we? And Safaricom is the biggest business in East and Central Africa. It posts the highest profits. But we are okay with it. And it has an element of government. But we are still okay with it. When the employees are better paid, we are okay. We trust them. That's the value of trust. We can't complain. Why? Because their business is based on technology. There is minimum human intervention. So we are likely to trust. And that's why they are making money. That's why they are doing well. And that's why we trust them. Banks. Why do we trust banks with our money? Because it is Telcom, Safaricom, and now followed by banks. If you look at the profit portfolios. We trust banks. Why? Because their systems are based on technology, nothing else. It is that technology that we are trusting. They are retro human. There is retro human intervention, human hearts. So we trust them because of technology. We are in information age. We are trusting technology much more than people. That is the premise on which procurement is based. The government procurement system has to be based on technology for it to be trusted. Because it is open. You can see it. You're not explaining anything. Anybody can see. So people will trust. But when they can't see it, they will never trust. That is where we are. So, we've seen it in Safaricom. We've seen it in banking. It needs to be seen in procurement. And we've also seen it in many, many other companies. All the global companies, the blue chips, here and international, they are all technology-based. If you are not, you will not be trusted. You can't control the business. No one can invest in you. But if you are sincerely, properly, technology anchored, then people will trust. Because even if there will be errors, it is easy to track down, it is easy to see, it is easy to rectify. And that is what is ailing our procurement systems in this country. So, this procurement is meant to bring trust. It's supposed to be your savior. Can I tell you something? Most people who are in court or in prison today because of procurement issues are not guilty. But this paper business is what validates their guilt. You think you are in office today. After you leave office, a case is filed against you. You know, me, I've even undergone impeachment. Mimi, unaona hapa? Kwa nini mnacheka? Kwani hamunijui? You know, that paper-based procurement is a risk to you. Guys, when you leave office, someone you tamper allowed with those papers, you be taken to court, you plead not guilty, evidence, you prove you are guilty. Because it is paper evidence. I just need to plug some documents, and it will be said that when you are undertaking this tender, you skipped this process. Unasema, no, I can't even remember. I remember when you are at home. Manage biashara zako. Those papers are not there. Judge fungua utuambie, because they are marked. They are always marked na vitu tu yellow. Document number what? Hakuna. That document is no longer there. Others are put and they bear your signature. And you never signed them, my brother. But you're out. Zinawekelewa hapo, unaona ni signature ni yako. Najaribu kukumbuka na ni miaka mingi. Nasema haidhuru. Si imesainiwa. Si zingine zimetolewa. That is evidence in court. The judge will not be unfair to you because he's using evidence adduced. Hata wewe unakaa unashangaa, kwani mimi nilifanya hivi kweli? Hukubuki, lakini pengine most likely hukufanya. But if that process was technology based, those things will never happen to you. Because, the system is clear, sindio? Wataenda kwa hiyo system, wataona, hata kabla makosa itendeke, ukituma, the regulator ataona, and you flag you, please don't go beyond. Don't go beyond that. You are getting to danger zones. Please check, reflect, and then you move forward. You are properly mitigated. So even for your own sake, let me tell you, you need that system. You don't want to retire, alafu kazi yako ni kwenda kwa makoti kila siku. Na ni mambo ambayo you have not control, na files iko kwa ofisi. But if the system, if it is system based, that system is there. Everybody will see, even the judge will see. Everybody, even the oversight authorities, even the EACC and the rest, they will see clearly. There will be no manipulation. So you are safer as a person with that system. Ukiwa kwa ndege unasemaga ukisikia nini, you first of all save yourself. Ukisikia imesemekana iko shida, hata mtoto unaachana naye kwanza, si ndio? Unaweka hizo vitu, shida you first of all save yourself even before you save anybody else. Wewe unacheza cheza hapo, you think hiyo kazi utakaa nayo hapo milele. Hakuna kitu kama hicho, my brother. Itaisha. Sisi tulikuwa kama na miaka 10. Ndio? Moja mbili a decade. Kwani wewe unafikiri utakuwa head of procurement forever? Si itaisha. Si wengine iko karibu kuisha. Si operate on a clean space. Ndio? Even for your own sake and for your own good. Why can't you reason like that? My brother, kwani unaniangalia hivyo? It is the truth, whether you like it or not. And we must embrace the truth. Early in the day, before danger knocks, before danger comes in, knocks in. Let's clean our space as buyers. So, wewe unasikia hiji unafikiri ni director general amekuja kusema. Huyu hana haja na hiyo kitu. Hii kitu ni yako. Unafikiri ni William Ruto anasema hivyo. Hakuna, ni yako. Unafikiri ni Felix, si Felix, ni wewe. Kwa ni anakupatia safety tools. Kama una diabetes, Mungu akupatia kitu ya kuangalia nini? Kuangalia mahali hiyo kitu imefika. Is that your enemy? Ya kuangalia sukari ya kazi nyingine ni ya kazi hiyo. Uitumie kwa hiyo kazi, usitumie kwa kazi nyingine. And I've said that with sincerity because I know there are mamas. Mimi najua mimi mwananchi. Kuna watu wanasema hii kitu wewe acha hiyo mambo. Unafikiria tumambo twako tule tudogo and then you lose sight of the bigger picture. Kwa nini? Acha hiyo. Acha na hiyo mambo kidogo unafikiria hiyo. Najua ni mimi naijua. Hiyo sio hiyo. Wewe think big. Use the system to help you and we shall work with you. Consult the office of the DG. Consult Treasury consistently. It will work. It will work for you. It will work for everyone. Mimi nataka kusema hivyo because na hiyo imetoka kwa law. That's why I didn't want any presentation. Because mimi sijui hiyo mambo sana hiyo ya presentation. Lakini wewe unisikize tu. Na ukirudi kwako, please make sure that thing works. Ya mwisho, and I am saying this with humility, it is also not optional. You see, there are many ways it will help you. It will let Kenyans see the whole thing. It will help us to implement projects like Isosa Youth, clearly directed, targeted, and we can see. It will help suppliers to be paid in time, timely, and nobody will get ahead of the other. It will manage pending bills. It will manage all those things. But by the end of the day, it is not optional. Unajua, nisiposema ukweli sasa nitasema nini? It is not optional, guys. Hakuna haja ya wewe unajua kitu kitasaidia. Wewe hutaki kufanya. Alafu unaanza kupigana na watu for nothing. Because the contributors to the kitty, who are the citizens who pay taxes and financiers, want it that way. They want to see how their money is being spent. Financiers, international agencies, World Bank and the rest, they want to see how their money is spent. Raia ili awe na trust, anataka kuona hiyo damu umesema imenunuliwa na bilioni 10, hebu tuone hiyo system yote. Na akiona hatauliza maswali. That's all what they want. If kama yule mtu ambaye analipa, the shareholder anataka hivyo, sasa wewe na ni mwajiliwa, kwa nini hutaki hivyo? Si huyo shareholder mtakorofana na yeye bure. My friends, ndio? Na sasa hiyo ugomvi unaleta ya nini? Inakusaidia mwenye mali ambaye ameweka pesa kwa kiti anataka hivyo, na wewe unazinzia. Si wewe the first one we implemented tusonge, wewe unafanya kazi yako. Me, I want to encourage you. If there are issues allowed that problem, my friend, you are the one to deal with the problem. Because I know, I've been in systems for long. All the from private sector. Many years in private. In county government governance, in many places, in parastatals, I have been there. There is a tendency of people saying, mimi nitasema haifanyi kazi. My brother, you are putting yourself in a lot of not necessary problems. Because it is your responsibility to make it work. And if it is not working, then you have to consult duly, because you are not an ICT expert. But you cannot keep there. You later say it was not working, you have not implemented, you didn't seek for help, then it will be construed to mean sabotage. Najua mimi lazima nimwambie ukweli hapo, kwa sababu mimi sitaki shida mimi. Mimi nimepitia shida mingi. Na unajua mtu akiwa amepitia shida mingi, ana advise wale watu ambao hawajapitia shida mingi. Si ndio? Mimi ni hivyo tu. Mimi sina hiyo mambo mnafikiria. Mimi nimepitia shida mingi sana. Na hata ukienda kwa Google utapata huko mashida mingi. Mimi ninataka wewe usipitie hiyo shida. So hiyo kitu wewe ukirudi nyumbani, kama una shida, consult duly, consult timely, you implement, utoke hiyo kwa hiyo shida. Hii kizingizio ati hakuna network, hakuna nini, hizo vitu hakuna mtu azijui. Those excuses which cannot amount to reasons, hakuna mtu azijui. So that tumejaribu hizo games many years. So don't try that game, please. Wewe enda kana governor wako, kana your boss, whichever institution, make it work, consult properly, and make sure that kwako inafanya kazi. You live a happy, simple life. Mimi nataka tukubaliane hiyo debate, kwa sababu najua iko. Tuache hiyo debate. Nothing is law. Nothing is going to be implemented. Nobody is backtracking on that. Najua ukijua hapa sitaweza, unasonga, unasema sasa tuendelee. So me, I wanted to just to insist, nobody is backtracking on that. Everybody is ready to work with you. And where you have problems, you must raise problems early enough. I'll tell you about our portal. The PPRA portal, you find that out of close to 34,000 procurement entities, it's only 900 who subscribes to the portal. Some have never at all, even a single one. Kwani kuna Kenya inakuanga hivyo? Hata watu wakipendana namna gani? Majuki, wewe you are the regulator. Wewe Majuki wewe. Kwani mambo inaendanga hivyo kweli? You are a very good regulator here, lakini mnampatia kazi ngumu. I have to be very open. I will tell you the truth. This is not his project. Lakini mnajipatia shida na mnapatia wengine shida. I've told you 900. Some have never. And they are seated on ICT highways. Well served, overserved. But they can't. My point is, and I know I have overstayed please let's subscribe. Let us use it as our tool to regain public trust and also to safeguard yourselves. Mimi sitaki kupitisha hapo. Tuko kwa hiyo uwanja pamoja, but kindly let us do it. And I'm told, because you see, when a project is rolled out, we are going to be communicating the levels of compliance. The first communication will be in September. We know there will be teething problems. Know that we are Kenyans. We are part of it. There will be issues, but they have to be sorted consistently and proactively. There will be issues, yes. But we can't hang on issues as excuses. We can't do that. We must always retain reasons so that we can deal with them firmly and reliably. So we shall be using quarterly, and it's not in a punitive sense. No. It is a requirement. We shall be raising compliance scorecards quarterly. The first one will be in September, and it should not be in bad faith. It can only be in bad faith if we don't say. And engage. It's not impunitive. We have no business in being punitive. Nobody has that business, especially at PPRA. We don't belong to that class ourselves. As we are human beings, we are business people. We've done this business for long, and we know. Sisi tunajua kufanya kazi. Hakuna fitina. So engage the Director General consistently, as far as we are concerned. And he'll be willing, atakutumia mpaka watu, mpaka hiyo kitu, tufanye. Na kama una shida wewe sema. Don't die with problems. Na ujue, and I'm saying it as a chair, sisi atukwangi na hiyo mambo kidogo. We don't belong to that community ya fitina sisi. So, I've put my case. We are going to walk the journey together, but kindly let us do it. Thank you very much.
We appreciate the chair one more time. Hello? Can you hear me? Hello? You'll find it. Anyway, so let's see if this one will work. So thank you so much. I think we'll go ahead now and really, you'll still come back here for the panel discussion. Want to make this, remember the EGP issue has been the elephant in the room, and we must get out of here today knowing that we got help. We are in this together. It is not optional. We must make it work. You know, these are real words that has told us that we have to take in mind as we go forward out of here. It's one of the key takeaways that we'll just say, we are in this together, and for our good. Words are mixed up. It's for our good, but I want to invite the representative of the chairman, PPRA, their review board, to also take us through his session, as we also plan to bring the chairman of KISM. So we have a discussion here about professionalism. The discussion today. Can you hear me? Okay. Let me ask our partner from PPRA, our review board, to just come make a quick presentation. It's all about professionalism and the road ahead. We are mapping the way forward from here. From here, it'll be the next steps forward. And I can tell you the next key step that all of us will be talking about after this is EGP. How do we make it happen? Because we don't have an option. And our governor has told us, please consult. Don't die alone. And I think DG has been on record to always say, he will not tell you follow the law. He will help you what he can. But let's make it happen. So, Bona, Kiwes Were, if you can come for a few minutes, and take us through the session. Let's appreciate Bwana QS Were, representing the chairman of PP Review Board, to talk to us about this next session. Karibu, Bwana Were.
Thank you very much, Mr. Karani. Governor, Chairman of PPRA, Mr. Mwangi, Iria, Director General, Mr. Njuki, KISM leadership, the delegates, heads of procurement, and colleagues, good morning. Having had the immediate last speaker present, one thing that comes to mind is that famous quote, where did the rain start beating us? To interrogate that particular question, first issues. My name is Hussein Were, and if you check your program, I do not appear. I'm actually here to represent the chair of Public Procurement Administrative Review Board, Mr. George Mudui. He could not come because of exigencies of duty, so he asked me to step in for him. The topic that we will be looking at is professionalism, ethics, and regulatory accountability, reclaiming integrity in public procurement practice. Now, colleagues, when you talk about reclaiming, what exactly do you mean? You reclaim that which you have lost. If you did not lose it, then you have it. So you're not reclaiming. The governor talked about lack of trust. What does that mean? It means within the practice of procurement, we lost trust somewhere. So when we lost trust, then every action that we undertake as professionals in the public procurement sector, that action is doubted. And so when it's doubted, then the whole governance structure is also doubted. So we will be trying to discuss on how do we reclaim that trust that has apparently been lost. Those who framed this particular topic definitely had it in mind that we need to be looking at how we reclaim the professionalism, that which most likely has been lost. The practice of procurement is really as old as mankind. In the olden days, there was the exchange of goods. May not have been through money. It may have been barter trade. It may have been when you give away your cow and somebody gives grain, or you give away something else in return for something else. So in essence, we have practiced procurement for as long as mankind has existed. What really has been happening over time is the refinement of the whole process of procurement. And in the refinement process, we have brought in the use of money, we brought in the use of other currencies, and we have widened the realm under which we are practicing procurement. And with the widening, we have actually entrenched the system to a point where it covers every aspect of our life. Virtually everything that we do includes procurement. And that's the reason it's not going to matter whether you're procuring medical services, legal services, you're buying pens, you're buying paper, you're buying computer, you're building houses. It all does include procurement services. The practice being so widespread, it also means that it attracts the scrutiny of the general public. How we do it then does affect the integrity of the whole process. If we do it badly, that's when we end up with a lack of trust. So we are here to try and see how do we reclaim this trust. For the longest time, the interest which has been generated in public procurement has witnessed the enactment of laws, regulations, and we even have a specific article in the Constitution, Article 227, that actually specifically talks about procurement of goods and services. Pursuant to that Article 227, we have the law, which we all practice and we're familiar with, Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Act. Then pursuant to that, we got regulations. And these regulations and laws, I cannot think of any law or regulations that is amended so many times, virtually every year, beyond public procurement. It just tells you about the interest the whole realm of procurement is to the economy. The governor talked about those who are hoarded to the revolving door, which really means the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. And he's talked about what will hound those of us who practice public procurement even when we leave office. And the reason is really very simple. Surveys which have been carried out have shown a direct correlation between corruption and procurement. This is the real fact, it's the hard truth, but we must confront it so that we reclaim that which we have lost. Studies have shown that up to 70% of corruption cases are procurement related, which then means if we fix procurement, then with one simple pen or swipe, we have eliminated 70% of corruption. And how do we do that? As we transit from simply being procurement managers into procurement professionals. What's the requirement of a professional? A professional is that which brings people together with a certain code, a code to practice. If you are bound by that code, you will jealously guard that which your profession professes. And that will ensure that your profession is actually going to stand the test of time and is going to be sustainable. Lawyers in the room, they have their code of conduct. Architects have their code of conduct, quantity surveyors, engineers, medical practitioners, and name it. Now, if we are professionals dealing with procurement, why are we not having a code of conduct that binds us and which within itself has means and mechanisms of self-regulation, disciplinary action, so that then we're able to redeem that which is procurement. So straight into this, the overview, the importance of public procurement, we've just stated that public procurement accounts for a significant portion of government spending. And effective public procurement is therefore crucial for delivering public services and infrastructure, to which therefore integrity is paramount. There are various challenges which have already been observed, and I'm sure during this conference for the last 4 days, you have looked at most of this. So I will not exactly belabor what you have already gone through. The key issue here is professionalism. As I've said, professionalism is that which binds people together, people with certain skills, knowledge, and expertise. So with your specialized knowledge, yours is to ensure that public procurement processes are conducted in a fair, transparent, efficient, and effective manner. And it does involve ethical standards, best practices, and regulatory requirements to achieve value for money. The key issue here is value for money. How do you get value for money? When you're doing it right, you get good quality of goods and services, you get them at the right price, and it will be the right standard. Characteristics of professionalism in public procurement, I've only mentioned 4. There is the expertise, where in this expertise, as professionals, you should possess specialized knowledge and skills in areas such as contract management, supply chain management, and procurement law. Essentially, those are the prerequisites of any profession, specialist skills, and that which will distinguish a procurement professional from a land surveyor, for that matter, a procurement professional from someone else maybe who is practicing dentistry. Secondly is integrity. Public procurement professionals must adhere to ethical principles and standards such as transparency, fairness, and impartiality to ensure procurement processes are conducted with integrity. Accountability. We've heard this word over and over again. It's just become like another song. But if we internalize it, what are we talking about when we mean accountability? This is where our actions and decisions are responsible for ensuring that procurement processes are transparent, fair, and compliant with regulatory requirements. We must also have continuous learning, such as what we are doing here. There must be CBDs, and then we must also be able to undertake collaboration with other stakeholders, which include government agencies, suppliers, and contractors to achieve common goals and promote effective procurement outcomes. Without ethics, professionalism is nothing. So in ethical conduct, it's really about what you call the software of the practice. It refers to the moral principles and values that guide the behavior of public procurement professionals and stakeholders involved in the procurement process. So ethics in public procurement ensures that procurement processes are conducted in a fair, transparent, and impartial manner. Like I've said, this is really the software. It's not going to be written down in a book, but it is how you conduct the whole aspect of the public procurement. It's the moral aspect of what you do. The key principles of ethics in public procurement, we've talked about transparency. This one we cannot gainsay. Then there's the fairness. Where does the fairness lie? When somebody conducts or looks at what you have done, he must be able to judge whether indeed you are fair or you are not fair just by conduct. Then there has to be impartiality. How do we measure impartiality? We're treating everybody the same way. Accountability is key. And then, of course, integrity. Integrity has been mentioned within the topic that we are discussing. And this is basically, it refers to acting with honesty, trustworthiness, and professionalism in procurement-related activities. The importance of ethics in public procurement, one is to maintain public trust. when we're trying to procure a new airport, there is a hue and cry. And why is that? It's not, and I agree with what the governor has said. It's not because we don't need an airport. We need it, but it's because we are not trusting the process. So, in ethics, the importance of ethics in public procurement essentially is to maintain that public trust. Get it back so that people trust in everything we do and everything that we say. It's also about preventing corruption and promoting good governance. These are not just mere slogans. They go to the core of our very being. The restlessness which we see around in the country is all because we have given the whole issue of ethics not serious attention that it deserves. Right from what we call the Chapter 6 of the Constitution on integrity, then going on to the various laws that apply to the practice of ethics and integrity that we need to observe. Regulatory accountability. Now, regulatory accountability in public procurement, this refers to the oversight and enforcement mechanisms that ensure public procurement processes are conducted in accordance with the relevant laws, regulations, and policies. This accountability includes the following. There is compliance with the laws. We've just talked about the provisions of the Article 227 of the Constitution. We've talked about the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Act. We have also talked about the enabling legislations, and we have the various policies and circulars that are issued. And there are very many that come out from time to time. You're conversant with those that are issued by public procurement regulatory authority that actually guide the whole realm of procurement. Oversight mechanisms, that's important. And then there is enforcement. Enforcement now comes in when oversight and compliance are beginning to fail. Then enforcement really does come in, where then probably then one is looking at possible prosecution, investigation and prosecution. Importance of regulatory accountability. The first one is to prevent corruption. Second is to promote transparency. And the third is to ensure that we get value for money. Key aspects. Key aspects of public procurement, like we have said, there's regulatory framework where we are supposed to establish clear and effective regulatory framework that govern public procurement processes. Institutional frameworks is also important, and then there's transparency and disclosure. Regulatory accountability mechanisms containing public procurement regulatory agencies, these ones such as the one that collaborates with KISM, PPRA, we got the National Treasury, the Office of the Treasury. These are all regulatory agencies in matters of procurement. Audit institutions, and then the whistleblower protection. Probably this is where we need to work a little bit more to enhance the whole aspect of whistleblower protection. There are many people who will come across information of what is not going right, but they are not able to come out to be able to reveal just because they're afraid of their own safety and also the jobs they hold. PPRB, that's where I come from. I'm a board member. The role in promoting integrity in Kenya's public procurement processes. What's the role of PPRB? The key role of PPRB is to review and hear public procurement disputes. Number two, it's also to ensure compliance with procurement laws. And number three is to provide a platform for redress for all the parties that may be affected one way or another by the decision of procuring entities. It's also to develop rules and procedures in procurement and promoting good governance. In the normal carrying out of the duties of the review board, there are certain common occurrences that we come across, and this one span across the whole chain of public procurement, starting with the preparation of documents. In the preparation of documents, we have had cases where parties come before the board and alleging bias within the document itself. Maybe the document has been skewed in such a way as to favor certain individuals or lock out others. That already becomes a source of dispute. It moves on to the point of the opening of tenders. We have people who have come to complain that they submitted tenders, but they did not even get their name on the tender opening register because they were locked out. That becomes also a source of dispute. Then go on to the evaluation of the bids. Does the evaluation follow the criteria which is set out in the tender document? Does it comply with the provisions of the Act, Section 80, subsection 2 of the Act? Next to that is the recommendations of the evaluation committee. Are they the ones that carry the day? Or does the accounting officer actually then implement recommendations other than those of the evaluation committee? What about the role of the head of procurement? Does the professional opinion, is it in tandem with the recommendations of the evaluation committee? Or does the head of procurement, who most of us actually here are, actually override the evaluation committee and then supplant their own decision to the evaluation process? There is something called due diligence, where we go out there to establish the qualifications or otherwise of a bidder. Is this done right? Or is it done simply to get reason to disqualify an otherwise successful qualified bidder? And then we also have issues where people come before us because a successful bidder has not been given an opportunity to enter into a signed contract. They are given letters of notification. The evaluation committee has recommended them, and then matters stop there. Nothing proceeds. We also had questions where people come before us and complain about termination of tender proceedings. Is the termination right? Is it in accordance with the law? The law allows a procuring entity to terminate a procurement process with good reason. But if the reasons are whimsical, they are not properly stated, or simply because the procuring entity does not like the bidder who has come out successful, then that will be challenged, and there's very likelihood that the challenge will succeed. Then, of course, there are issues about non-compliance with the board's decisions. We are clear that under Section 175 of the Act, any aggrieved person aggrieved by the decision of the board will move to the High Court to seek a judicial review, but not necessarily to ignore the orders of the board, because that again amounts to an offense under the Act. So why does integrity matter in public procurement? Integrity does matter in public procurement because, one, it's one of the most effective ways to fight corruption. Number two, it is the best way to deal with the inefficient use of public funds. And number three is to avoid the issue of poor quality of goods and services, this lack of transparency and accountability, and is then eventually, of course, undermining public trust. And we have said, if we really want to reclaim the trust of the public in the institutions of governance, then we have to deal with the core issues such as this one of procurement. We deal with the mistrust that has really permeated the whole sector. So why does integrity matter in public procurement? I have already stated there are legal and reputational risks, which then really we must deal with. Inequitable distribution of opportunities. Now this is important. You will ask yourself, why would, for instance, construction of a road in Kenya cost 3 or 4 times more per kilometer than constructing a road in Ethiopia or Rwanda, for that matter? If it's so expensive to construct a road in Kenya or do business in Kenya, an investor is more likely going to choose to go to a cheaper environment, and that's where they're going to set up their business. So that ends up hurting our economy. We lose jobs and we lose opportunities that will otherwise come to our country. Reclaiming integrity in public procurement, I've already said, this is about strengthening regulatory frameworks, which starts with self-regulation. As practitioners, we don't want to wait to be regulated by others. When we start waiting to be regulated by others, eventually, the mode in which others regulate us is not the way we desire. There will be systems which will be designed to avoid any conduct with a procurement professional. But that's not the route we want to take. The route we want to take is that we want to make our services relevant, our services needed, but then appreciated. So we have to do it with the aim of self-regulation. Those of us who are not within the profession, who are probably not doing what is stated in the profession, there has to be a mechanism within the profession of dealing with it, addressing it, even if it means handling disciplinary cases. Just like lawyers will handle disciplinary cases internally, medics will do the same, architects will do the same, and it shouldn't be any different for procurement professionals. Number 2, enhancing transparency and accountability, fostering a culture of ethics and integrity, preventing corruption, and improving institutional capacity. Best practices in public procurement. Open and competitive tendering really is important. Electronic procurement system, and the chair has just talked about EGP, which is the way now we are going to go. Performance-based contracting, stakeholder engagement and participation, and finally, risk mitigation. Call to action. We have to uphold ethical standards, and this cuts across the board. When we talk about ethics, it's not just in public procurement, it's got to be in all aspects and facets of our lives. Promote transparency, foster a culture of integrity, develop and implement effective procurement processes. 5, engage in continuous professional development, collaborate with stakeholders, and support anti-corruption efforts. Our takeaway: by working together, we can reclaim integrity in public procurement in Kenya, ensuring that public funds are used efficiently and effectively, and that the public trust is maintained. Let's take action today to promote integrity, transparency, and accountability in public procurement. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much.
Let's appreciate Bonavere one more time. Excellent. So we cannot conclude this session without inviting our other fellow chairman from KISM to also talk to us briefly. I hope you're all, it's better, I thought we should finish everything, then we go for a break and we go. Shindio, is that okay? Once we go here, once we finish this session, we'll just a quick roundtable before we go for lunch. Bonasio, I'm a break. We go for break. So let's invite Bwana Amos Ocheng, the chair of KISM, to take us through the next session. Asante. Let's appreciate him.
The chair of the council, the chairman of the KISM council, to the chief guest, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I think mine will be very brief. As I came, I prepared a very long written speech, but having listened to everyone, including the Honorable former governor, I decided to have a very abridged version so that I don't take a lot of time. I would like first by saying that it's an honor and privilege to stand before you today at this important forum, graciously convened by our sister institution, the Kenya Institute of Supplies Examination Management. And I extend warm congratulations to KISM for assembling a distinguished audience and for selecting a compelling and timely theme around the topic procurement and supply chain management as a catalyst for national transformation. We at the KISM board are proud to be part of this gathering, united in our mission to elevate the practice and impact procurement in Kenya and beyond. Before I continue, I would like to say that as a board, some of our key responsibilities are around the setting and upholding standards in the examination, certification, and examination. And in alignment with this responsibility, we've undertaken some few actions to align ourselves with the profession. And these have included modernization of our curriculum. And what we had in mind is a focus on ethics, sustainability, public investment, e-procurement, emerging technologies, among other topical issues. Recognition of prior learning is one other activity that we've taken as a board. And this we've done to provide formal pathways for experienced practitioners to receive professional recognition and certification. We acknowledge that we have professionals who are in their very late years of practice, and so probably going to formal certification might be a big challenge. And so what we've done is that, borrowing from global best practice, we, in partnership with KISM, initiated RPL as a pathway of recognizing our experienced practitioners. We are also in partnership with and collaboration with institutions like KISM, the academia, regulators, and employers to ensure that relevance of our qualifications and professional development frameworks reflect the realities of our times. As KISM, I give you professionals the assurance that we are committed to producing supply chain professionals who are not only technically capable, but also ethically grounded, agile, and aligned to the national development goals. And to all the heads of procurement assembled here today, I want to tell you that you are the stewards of transformation in your respective institutions. Your influence goes beyond procurement plans and tender notices. By the way you shape policy in this country as a profession. But going back, for the last, I think, 2 or 3 days, the elephant in the room has been about EGP. And I think it would not be right of me to complete without looking at Why EGP? We've dwelt around EGP, but I also want to say one of the reasons why EGP, if you look at it critically, has been introduced is to reclaim integrity in public procurement practice. And why do I say this? Why is it important? It is important because public procurement represents one of the most visible, impactful government functions. We are no longer a backroom function. We are a very strategic government function. That when you see roads being built, when you see classrooms being built, when you see medicine in hospitals, when you see power supply, be rest assured that procurement, and not just procurement, but public procurement, has been undertaken. That is how important and how powerful the practice is. However, public procurement remains very vulnerable to unethical practices. There is rent-seeking behavior and regulatory non-compliance, as we know. And for that, there is a reason why we need to reclaim integrity. And this, I believe, is where a platform like the EGP comes into play. As the chief guest told us in the morning, I believe the EGP actually protects us. As practitioners, that is a platform that protects us. The paper trails. You know, there is the issue of disappearance of the papers. And it's a reality. That you do something today, but because of vested interests, one day, a week later, or a month later, or a year later, when the papers are being looked for, they are non-existent. And so this platform provides a lasting imprint of all our transactions. And how do we reclaim this? That there must be a professional foundation for reclaiming our integrity. And this must be based on competence and certification. And this is where our board comes in for the profession. That as a board, we give you the assurance that the certification that we provide is top-notch, local but global in nature. Then we must also embrace continuous professional development, like we are assembled here today for CPD. And I want to reconfirm to the gathering that practice is not static, that there will always be changes in practice. And as a result, we must always embrace continuous professional development. And then, we must also, as a profession, have a professional identity. You know, when you look at doctors, when you see a lab coat, when you go to a hospital, you know that must be a doctor. And what is it that is our identity as a profession? Gentlemen and ladies, can we be the yardstick of measuring integrity in this country? That as a country, our profession can be used as the yardstick of measuring integrity. That all professions can come to us to measure integrity. And we are a young profession, by the way, in this country. But there is so much that is already happening that many professions are borrowing from us. What else do we need to do? That we must put ethics at the heart of public trust. Remember, we were told in the morning that the public has lost trust in us. So how do we do? What do we do, gentlemen and ladies? Because ethical dilemmas are common in procurement. As we carry out procurement, there's always dilemmas that confront us every day. That we must find a way as a profession of navigating through these ethical dilemmas. We must also institutionalize ethics. That ethics must be our way of life, not a requirement of the law. And we must also prune procurement decisions to reflect public trust, not personal or political gain. That whatever we do, we must always remember that we are mere servants of the people, that we are public servants who are merely executing on behalf of our country. And my key message here is that ethics is not optional. That ethics must be an operating system in procurement. We must embrace it or we will perish. As you've seen, many colleagues have fallen into this landmine of ethics. We've been pursued by so many regulatory agencies. So we must embrace ethics to safeguard ourselves. We must also have regulatory accountability to provide compliance and commitment. That as institutions that we represent, we must go beyond just ticking the box. We must move towards fostering cultures of compliance and accountability. That accountability and compliance must be our way of life. We must strengthen audits and oversight so that the consequences of non-compliance is reduced. I also want to add that reclaiming integrity must be our collective responsibility. That as heads of procurement, we must be the ethical compass of our institutions. That ethical issues must be referred to us as a way of life in our institutions. That regulatory bodies, like those of us who are represented here, and we are many, we must uphold independence and rigor in enforcement. We must also uphold standards and guide ethical orientation and defend professional integrity. And what opportunities for transformation do we have? We have opportunities such as digital procurement platforms like the EGP that has been provided. We must also embrace ethical leadership development. And this is where we come in, like at KISM, our curriculum embraces that, ethical leadership development. We must also look at cross-sector partnerships. And we must also look at recognition frameworks to reward ethical procurement behavior and leadership. I think one of the ways in which the private sector ticks is good acts and deeds are normally rewarded. Probably this is something that we need to look at, that even in the public sphere, when we save money for organizations, how do we also get rewarded? Probably the reward is there, but I think it's not as pronounced as in the private sector because that is what drives the private sector. That in the private sector, any good actions are equally rewarded. And as I close, I want to close by saying that integrity is not a one-time act, but a daily choice. That let us recommit to professionalism, ethical courage, and accountability. Because when procurement loses, the country pays the price. Shall we? Thank you, Chairman. Republicans.
So much. Let's appreciate the chairman one more time. His Excellency the Governor is telling me, he has dealt with people for long, and I don't know how to choker. Can we take a quick break and come back? We are going to be closing our ceremony right now with the presence online, virtually, unfortunately. He was not able to come here, PS National Treasury, and the CS also wanted to come, but he has sent the PS. They are all in Homa Bay. They are stuck in Homa Bay. Can we do that for 5 minutes? You do a bio break and come back? Will that be okay? Yeah. Wow. I can see the room is... let me... So the PS will be ready to address us exactly in 15 minutes. If you can quickly go out, take a quick bio break and come back as we recap. And we'll have a few question and answer with His Excellency and the PPRB and the KISM chair, and then we can go straight to the closing ceremony. Can we do like that? 10 minutes. Take your tea and come back and take a bio break. Asanteni sana.
But collectively, we know that as heads of procurement, we have a responsibility to make decisions, make discussion, deliberations, which will actually culminate into certain resolution, which I want to believe shortly we shall be listening to them with a view to, seeking your concurrence so that going forward, they can actually be translated into policy or whatever action that is required of us. So we should be in a position to be in that particular state. And as I had earlier said, all our channels for communication are actually available. You can go to our portal, our Facebook page, various WhatsApp groups, reach to us. We have our lines which are open. You can SMS, you can do emails, and that is the reason why we are at KISM Secretariat. We are there to collect those particular information, collate them with a view to tabling them in the various levels which are required to progress the matters going forward. Shortly, we should be picking and, being ready for the closure. Ask your neighbor, how are you finishing? Just turn and ask. Yeah? How are you finishing? Yes? In the first place, confirm if you are even finishing.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chichir. To our chief guest who is joining us online, the PS State Department for Economic Planning, Honorable Makoa, the chairperson of the KISM Council, Mr. John Karani, and all council members present. We recognize our council members. We have CM Jeremiah Ntusi, CM Moses Omondi, CM Fidel Mwema, CM Makanda, CM Jennifer Sirindi, and CM Marianne Karanja, the chairperson of the Public Procurement Regulatory Board, the Honorable Mwangi, who is Supplies Examinations Board, Mr. Amos Ochieng, the representative of the Public Procurement Administrative Review Board, Mr. Were, representing Chairperson George Mudui, the DG PPRA, Mr. Patrick Wanjuki, the DG, the CEO, KISM, Dr. Fred Ongisa, all distinguished guests, our stakeholders, sponsors, and partners, HOPs, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Good afternoon once again. I think it has been a very wonderful week that we have had to engage on matters policy, matters strategy, and fundamental issues that affect the supply chain profession in the country. And we wanted to take this earliest opportunity, even as we come closer to the end of the conference, to take us through at high level the rapporteur's report so that we can be able to see the action points that we can pick for the benefit of progressing this profession. It is noteworthy, ladies and gentlemen, that even the EGP conversations that we are having today emanated from the historical issues that began sometimes in the past, but most centrally discussed during the last conference. And on top of that, even the legislative reforms that are currently underway in the bill that is being progressed in Parliament was equally discussed during the last conference. And I think that is fundamental because we are picking policy proposition and value proposition in that sense for this profession in the interest of making a difference as we move forward. As such, ladies and gentlemen, with the permission of the chair of the KISM Council, Mr. John Karani, and all council members, it is now my humble duty to take us through the rapporteur's report, and then we'll be able to have the chair of the KISM Council come to make further remarks and invite our chief guest for today, the PS State Department for Economic Planning, to officially address us and convey the message of goodwill from the CS at the National Treasury. With that stated also, I wish to convey our sincere appreciation to the accounting officers, the DG PPRA. We have had very open, candid, structured engagements. We have also picked very honest feedback from this critical mass. We are called the pulse for socioeconomic progress of the country as supply chain professionals. And I think we agree in principle that all the issues that have been discussed here are taken positively, and it is in the interest of making a difference. So nothing is personal. It is all geared towards taking the country to the next level. And we also appreciate the tone that has been set to us by the government of Kenya through the PS State Department for Public Investment and Asset Management, the leadership of the KISM Council, and all the council members. As the Secretariat, we thank you most sincerely for the continued stewardship and strategic guidance at the Institute. So during this forum, I hope I can be able to share the screen from here so that I can be able to take us through the rapporteur's report. Is it up, technician? Okay, I can't see it. Okay, thank you very much. Yes, so thank you very much. Do we have a challenge? It is on my side? Okay, so thank you very much for that. So this is the rapporteur's conference report for the period that we've been here. It is noteworthy that this year the theme was for prosperity, procurement and supply chain management as the catalyst for national transformation. And during this forum, we had quite a number of topics that we discussed, the total being 15 topics. The speakers were also then 15 in that sense. Of course, we had discussants and panelists. We looked at the sub-theme on leadership, public trust and fiscal reform. I'm happy to note that we started with it, and the Honorable Mwangi Iria has come to even revamp and put the leadership tone to it as we end this forum. We also looked at issues of fiscal discipline and budget transparency. We looked at matters of ethics, integrity, and oversight. And we also looked at issues of professionalism and the road ahead, as will be alluded to shortly by the chairman of the KISM Council. So during this conference, apart from the speakers that I've indicated, we had a total of 374 delegates. Apart from these delegates, we had another set of around 50 speakers and stakeholders, and making the participation in this conference being at about 430 delegates. And we thank you very much, dear HOPs, for your patronage and commitment to the profession and for your presence here. During this conference, we had set the following objectives. Number one was to reignite ethical and accountable leadership. Number two was to assess progress and enforce resolution. And number three was to equip you heads of procurements with strategic tools that will also enable you to foster multi-stakeholder collaboration as we become champions of procurement as the lever for national dignity, justice, and economic resilience. And most fundamentally is to advance policy thinking. So we have picked a number of recommendations. We will have a very comprehensive report which we will circulate to you as our members. But for purposes of tidy wrap-up of this conference, we have picked legislative, policy, and administrative recommendations that we think is important for us to note as we move forward. The first issue that we have picked is in regards to the review of the legal framework so that we can be able to provide adequate mechanisms of handling and managing pending bills. The conversations around pending bills has been quite prominent in this conference. Members discussed about Article 223 of the Constitution, the challenges with how supplementary appropriations are done, and the policy proposals on how we can be able to deal with this as we peg payments on plans and budgets. The second issue that was discussed is prioritization of procurement and asset disposal systems in schools. KISM has done a study, a critical analysis of what is happening in schools. PPRA has also worked on the review of the capacity, infrastructure, and asset disposal systems in schools. The next, and the challenge that has been put to us, is to engage with stakeholders, especially policyholders within the Ministry of Education and the government at large, so that we can be able to have a policy position in the interest of creating employment opportunities for supply chain professionals in schools as we strengthen the management of public resources. The other issue that was discussed is how to develop procedures to facilitate procurement in foreign missions and consulates, and how to advocate for opportunities. The gap that was identified during this conference is the lack of clear mechanism of engaging supply chain professionals to support the government within their foreign missions and consulates. And the leadership of PPRA, the leadership of KISM will be working together with the relevant actors to follow up on the memorandum already submitted to the Prime Cabinet Secretary, so that we can be able to see how to support the government agenda when it comes to procurements being done in foreign missions. What was also prominent, lastly, on the legislative angle was on how to provide and enhance accountability framework in the administration of affirmative action schemes. The PS MSMEs talked to us and made a raft of proposals, which we will be following up with her in the interest of ensuring that we build a robust mechanism of dealing with affirmative action schemes, and in this case, the AGPO scheme. The other issue that was picked on the policy side is in regards to embracing, supporting, and facilitating seamless rollout of the EGP system. The DG PPRA has provided astute leadership. He has been very, very clear on the tone of government, and we as professionals, we totally support him on that issue, and we will be working together as we also deal with the teething problems. But ultimately, the country has to win. The next point that was discussed was around follow-up and ensuring finalization of the bills pending in Parliament. The chairman of the KISM Council will be able to talk to that just shortly. The other issue that was discussed was on how to curate more programs targeting private sector and third sector, while noting the progress that has already been made. During this conference, we had a mix of both public, private, third sectors, and public sector speakers in the interest of elevating and building homogeneity in the delivery of our programs as an institute. And we take note that at KISM we have now built a total of 33 programs in our CPD programs, and we have also built a program that is targeting all the 7 sectors in the country as we target to bring the private sector on board. The other issue that has been talked about during this conference is around enhancement of compliance enforcement to create sanity in the profession. I think the challenge we have picked is on how to embed compliance requirement and registration requirement in the EGP system. The chair of the Public Procurement Regulatory Board has talked about disclosures that we need to make in the PPIP. The DG has been very clear on this, and we totally support this, as we also continue with our crusade on ensuring that only people who are duly registered and licensed within the purview of the Supplies Practitioners Management Act should be allowed to practice in the country. As I come closer to the end, I want to conclude with the administrative issues. I think one of the issues that we have picked is for us to institute forums to facilitate feedback and policy proposals advancements. So we will be engaging with you. Joshua Midi challenged us to organize a forum, a follow-up forum on EGP, and we will be working very closely with the DG PPRA and Director Korir at the National Treasury so that we can be able to provide more technical support to supply chain professionals. We also discussed about enhancement of controls to ensure professionals using the EGP system are duly licensed. The challenge is that beyond the HOPs, I think all practitioners within the ecosystem of procurement processes should be duly registered in the EGP system, and we will be having that conversation with the National Treasury so that we can be able to deal with this issue of licensing and registration with finality moving into the future. On that accord, we also talked about enhancing the basket of TOTs for robust rollout of EGP system, adopting a demand and supply-driven approach where PPRA, KISM, and the National Treasury work together in driving the progression of capacity development programs on the EGP rollout. We also looked at issues of enhanced collaboration and partnership among the supply chain actors and learning institutions. It is noteworthy the Vice Chancellor of the International Leadership University has agreed to curate a short course on leadership and integrity for supply chain professionals, and we will be following up as you challenged us the other day with that important institution. Lastly, ladies and gentlemen, is just to pick the pieces of the unique topic on the soft side of supply chain practice. And I think what was quite apparent is that beyond the traditional topics, we need to look at unique and new emerging frontiers when it comes to professional packaging and branding. And I think the issues of authenticity, performance, critical thinking, value proposition were discussed aptly yesterday, including how we become visible, how we position ourselves, how we work on our personality traits and presence, how we command presence, how we become self-conscious, how we invest in political agility, self-concept, and consistency in service delivery. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, I want to sincerely thank PPRA, KISM, PPRB, and the leadership of those institutions for the good support towards this conference. We also take note that we have the Kenya College of Supply Chain Leadership here, and it is important to note that it is our new baby that we want all of us to embrace and support moving forward. As I hand over to the chairman, because he's already here, is to once again appreciate all our partners on the screen, the House of Procurement, and all our sponsors during this event. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. And I want to hand over the program to the chairman to take us to the next step. Thank you very much.
I'm actually coming here because our chief guest is already online and we don't want to take any more time. They are in the midst of the devolution conference, and I thought it's better we allow them to come in right away as we come to the close. I think you can, karibu sana bwana PS, I can see you already really trying to accommodate us in your busy schedule, but most welcome. So my name is John Karani. In the room here, I know you don't have a lot of time. Let's test the voice again, bwana PS. Can we?
Yeah, thank you. I can hear you loud and clear. Can you hear me?
We can hear. Can you hear the PS? Great.
Yes, I can. Yeah.
Thank you. We can hear you, sir.
And sorry. Yeah, sorry that we have to juggle between these two meetings. And probably the background noise. You bear with me. If you allow me, I can go right ahead and deliver the remarks.
Please go
on
right
behalf
ahead.
of the
Yes,
CS.
go right ahead. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. On behalf of the CS for the Treasury Finance CS Mbadi, I want to take this opportunity to recognize John Karani and the entire council, KISM CEO, Mr. Kenneth Matiba, all invited chief executive officers and accounting officers, all procurement and supply chain practitioners and distinguished participants, KISM staff, not left behind. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I'm honored to attend, on behalf of the CS, I'm honored to attend this fourth edition of Heads of Procurement and Supply Chain Management Forum 2025, virtually live here from the great county of Homa Bay during this devolution conference. I'm informed that the last 4 days have been exciting and thought-provoking conversation that have happened on procurement and supply chain management. Let me appreciate the organizers, Kenya Institute of Supplies Management, the speakers who participated, the participants who've been there all the time for their invaluable contribution and time. I wish also to reiterate that procurement and supply chain profession plays a pivotal role in upholding the principles of fairness, equity, transparent, and competitiveness that is enshrined in our Constitution, Article 227 years. This 2025 edition comes at a truly defining moment in Kenya's socio-economic and governance trajectory. As a nation, we are confronting a wave of civic demand for accountability, integrity, and enhanced service delivery. You, our dedicated procurement professionals, stand at the very heart of this transformation agenda. The lessons we've learned, particularly from the recent discussions surrounding the Finance Bill 2024 and the growing scrutiny over public spending, especially through procurement processes, have revealed a critical need to rebuild our public trust. Procurement accounts for over 60% of government expenditure. And therefore, we must respond to this call, not with rhetoric, but with courageous, ethical, and visionary leadership. The forum's theme for prosperity, procurement, and supply chain management as a catalyst for national transformation is not merely aspirational, it is very urgent. In the wake of physical pressure, there's an echo. In the wake of physical pressure, citizen unrest, and heightened audit attention, the procurement function must transition from being just a transactional enabler to a strategic pillar of national renewal. This shift demands a strong, professionalized, and accountable cadre of procurement leaders who will align spending with citizen needs, public policy, and our cherished national values. I've also learned that you have extensively discussed the digital transformation of government procurement through the EGP platform. This platform provides a critical opportunity to embed transparency, efficiency into procurement. Therefore, this forum has been a crucial platform to take stock, share experiences, and co-create solutions that work not just on paper, but effectively in practice. Let me be unequivocal. The full and effective rollout of the EGP system across all government entities is not merely an option, but a mandatory step forward. As procurement professionals, you have a non-negotiable responsibility to embrace this digital shift and ensure its comprehensive implementation. Indeed, within the National Treasury, we are actively engaged in ongoing conversations to streamline and accelerate this pivotal process. As we look ahead, the National Treasury is committed to providing clear policy direction to ensure that these transformations take root and flourish. Some of our key policy directives include: one, strengthening regulatory frameworks. On this, we are reviewing and strengthening the existing legal and regulatory framework, including the SPMA 207, to close loopholes, enhance reinforcement mechanisms, and ensure compliance. This includes clearer guidelines on ethical conduct and accountability. Two, mandating the EGP adoption and optimization. The EGP platform is central to our transparency agenda, and we will implement policies that mandate its full and consistent utilization across all procuring entities, coupled with robust training programs and ethical support to overcome capacity gaps and ensure end user ownership. We are also exploring measures to integrate it seamlessly with other government financial management systems. Three, capacity building and professional development. We will prioritize significant investment in continuous professional development, specialized training, and certification programs for all procurement professionals. Our aim is to elevate the profession and ensure a highly skilled and ethical sound cadre of leaders. Four, promoting local content and sustainable procurement. Our priorities will increasingly focus on leveraging procurement to stimulate local industries, support small and medium enterprises, and enable and embed sustainability consideration, including environmental and social impact, into all tender processes. Finally, five, fostering inter-agency collaboration. We will institutionalize mechanisms for enhanced collaboration between procuring entities, oversight bodies, and other stakeholders to ensure a unified approach to procurement reform and dispute resolution. Moreover, the evolving global procurement landscape, marked by post-pandemic disruptions, rising costs, and geopolitical shifts, demand smart sourcing strategies, supplier resilience, and regional integration. As a proud member of the African Continental Free Trade Area, Kenya must prepare its procurement systems for cross-border trade, policy harmonization, and shared African infrastructure agendas. This forum has equipped you to align your functions with this crucial continental reality. This year's edition has sought to call on every procurement leader to account not only to their institution, but to the Kenyan people. It has fostered a dialogue to echo the lessons of previous declaration, but more importantly, it speaks to the future, a future where procurement is not seen as a bottleneck, but as a beacon of trust, efficiency, and integrity. On behalf of the government, and the Ministry of National Treasury, I extend my sincere gratitude to each one of you for your active participation, your valuable contribution, and your dedication to public service. In particular, we thank the KISM for impressive improvement we are witnessing in the management of the Institute. Just to mention a few, KISM is among the few institutions that received unmodified clean audit report by the Office of the Auditor General on its financial statements for the year 2024. Two, the Institute today has a fully functional disciplinary framework, a running college offering professional courses that had domesticated and operationalized the recognition of prior learning framework and graduated some students, and has automated its key business processes. This is impactfully running its compliance reforms. The Institute is also building critical policies such as professional indemnity, standards of practice, scales of fees, among other initiatives. We shall fully support the Institute in its reform agenda, including the review of the legal framework. It is commendable today. KISM membership has grown to over 27,000, and therefore, as we move, let us embrace the recommendations and action points from this dialogue. Let us work together to implement this recommendation and drive positive change, change in our supply chains. With renewed optimism for the future of the public procurement in Kenya, I now hand over to the chairman to continue with the program. Thank you, and may you all have a safe journey back to your homes and offices. God bless you, and God bless our beloved Kenya. Santeni. Thank you. Thank you so very much. I have to jump into the closing ceremony by the Deputy President. Thank you. Over to you.
Chairman to come and field a few questions by show of hands. Can we give them time to come and field a few questions? Watu wamechoka. Who wants? Okay. Sir Governor, I know you spoke from the heart. Just for a few minutes, I know people are tired. One question or two, and on Chairman Amos and Sir PPRB. If you don't mind, just a few minutes here at the podium as we bring this to a close. Sawere. Two questions that are definitely not from Joshua this time. Please give Joshua the microphone. And then William Sakuda. And I know Jeremiah Yego is going to ask a question. So those are the three people who always ask questions. So let's do those three, then we are done. Go ahead, Sir Joshua.
Thank you, Bwana Mwenyekiti. I was burning to ask because I was discussing with the Bwana Charles, who is representing the chair, and I briefed him about the compendium we have done, researched and compressed more than 1,500 cases in that compendium. I briefed him, but for the purpose, for the information of other members, let me just ask him. The regulations have introduced the regional panels of the board. how many are they and what is their performance so far in the country in terms of how many cases have they handled. And since they are not, okay, in the law they are deemed as full board, but the number is like 5 of them. Do you co-opt procurement professionals for expert opinion? Because of course we know some of the board members are not procurement people. And then about the compendium, sir, we researched from January 2016 until April last year. And the PPRA, and it's good the DG is here, the PPRA in their annual reports, they post some information, how many cases were handled, but most importantly, they say how many escalated to High Court. Yeah, and then it stops there. The reports do not say what were the results of those cases that escalated to High Court. Because in the compendium we have gone up to even in the Court of Appeal. Then in the second edition we shall go even to Supreme Court, the recent Supreme Court rulings. So I would propose that those annual reports, kindly sir, be putting such information. How many went to High Court, then how many went to Appeals and Supreme, so that it can help my research. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Give to Jeremiah here, since he's next to you, before we give to William to finish.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
So mine is not a question, Chair. Mine is just to assist this endeavor or this initiative. I don't have a question, so if you'll allow, I'll go very quickly.
Please, thank you.
My model. So, Honorable Iria, it's so funny when you meet our leaders face to face.
Without suits.
Yes, they are different. He's different when you tell him. You're very nice also. Anyway, going to the solutions that I have in hand, and this, that's, of course, if it's agreeable with my peers here. He asked 2 pertinent questions. He asked, what will it take for us to adopt EGP? I can attest to you that I was not sold by this. We have our own ERP system where I work. My name is Jeremiah Yego. I head the supply chain department at the Capital Markets Authority. And so I was very apprehensive about using EGP. But the more I got to learn about it and having interacted with it, it has its pluses. Of course, there are shortfalls, but we can address them just like any other system. So you asked, what would it take for us to change the perception of supply chain or procurement? First and foremost, like I was telling my colleague, nowadays I try not to use the word procurement because it's synonymous for many years with corruption. I try to use supply chain. So when people tell me, oh, you're the HOP, I tell them I'm the head of supply chain. It helps a bit. Number 2, for culture change, of course, like I've said, drop that issue for the negative talk. I was head of procurement because it's synonymous with corruption. Number 2, and it was alluded to by the chair for PPRA, the review board, and he talked about rewarding the procurement practitioners when they do good, when they save things, when they do something unethical. Why don't we factor in recognitions? These awards. The marketing sector have awards. LSK has awards. Us, we never get to recognize our. So that's just water under the bridge. If we start working on the positive and forget the negative, never just talk about procurement. We are here to talk about corruption in procurement. Let's just talk about the positive. We have saved so much. We're in a strategic position. If we keep on talking about the positive, the human mind is very powerful. We will just start seeing the positive and we will forget the negative. So those are just a few ways to address that matter on how can we work to improve procurement as far as EGP is concerned. Number 2, on the issue of how EGP will address the pain points of the AGPO certified companies and whatnot. And there is what they call the BRS. While like the EGP system, again, where I was sold, it maps itself with all the other key stakeholders. NCA for construction, National Treasury, who else? KRA being one of the key ones. So it maps, when you make your application as a supplier, it maps all these together. So it flags even before you submit your tender. What we're calling the BRS, the Business Registration Services. So that will address the issue of awarding an AGPO registered firm a contract, and then the money is billed to whomever is fronting the company as an AGPO certified person. It will actually go to the youth because the KYC is done through the system. So the youth will get their money, the PWDs will get their money, and the women will get their money. I don't know why the boy child is left out. I've always argued, even men nowadays need this money. Anyway, then this one goes to the DG, and we are friends with DG. I must attest that he responds. Mr. Njuki, and I appreciate that you do respond when people reach out to you. You've been busy, and alifungua roho on Wednesday. Initially, we were like, no, we will not support you. But when you open, it's like, even me, I'm answerable to support, we will support you. We will have your back. For you, I'd urge you, if is what we call buy-in. If you want people to buy in to this EGP initiative, you see the 12 pilot entities, public entities, and I saw what National Treasury did there. You know where 12 comes from? In the Bible, how many disciples were there? I saw what you did there, and that was very smart. So it also has a spiritual angle, and God to forgive me if I'm wrong about that. If you can be making presentations using one of the entities that has actually run the system end-to-end, I'm telling you, you're home and dry. Human beings learn through visuals. If you just run it, in fact, you should be there. And we have data here, and you have a laptop. We can give you, then you run yours, because I know you are there as PPRA. End-to-end, I promise you, people will be sold. The next thing we'll do when you get to the office, you'll be like, it's working there, it has to work where I am. But you are trying. I'm not saying you're not trying, you are trying. And then also for a cost correction initiative, there's the issue, and I mentioned this yesterday in the morning, the APIs, the application programming interface. That is another avenue to get this thing rolling. For the entities that have an ERP, trust you me, rolling out this process. I have worked with systems, like I said, I worked in the banking sector for many years, and I know how core banking systems work. Before you roll out a new system, you have to run the two in parallel, the old and the new. Learn from the old, move or transfer data to the new. It takes a year, 2 years, or even more. This one, I think we are pressed for time, and we will work to support it. If we adopt that issue of the APIs, and when I say that, issue the APIs to the organizations that have running ERP systems which they are comfortable with after you've done your audit to confirm the same. Once you integrate with that system, some organizations, so that there's no bottleneck as far as the economy running, where everybody is saying the government is not buying, and the government is the biggest spender. And the government stops spending, then the economy also stalls. So for the APIs, I don't know, and my prayer is you can consider that for the organizations where the ERP system works. Then finally, and this one I must share with you. Yesterday, before we had the cocktail, I don't know, Mahesh, why you were not invited, but it was like the Gen Z would say, it was lit. It was lit. I met a Gen Z, and again I mentioned this yesterday. If you want to push this agenda, use the Gen Z. I didn't even know they were Gen Z until I saw them on the dance floor. Now, when we were talking, I was actually outside there minding my own business, talking to my CEO and asking how we can push this agenda. And then she walked by and she was shouting, EGP works, EGP works. You know, I had to hang up and listen to what is this EGP that is working. So I reached out to her and I asked her, why are you celebrating so much? She's like, you know what I did? I talked to the finance people, they've been delaying this process. I told them, send me the details. Then there was an EGP desk there. Then she went on, she uploaded the budget, the procurement budget. And the procurement budget is before my eyes, and this was 7 p.m. And she was so happy and elated. You know what happens when you see somebody who's happy about something that works, even you want to do it. Her name is Florence. Shout out to Florence. She's somewhere here. But it works. So my prayer is also use the Gen Z. They will push that agenda for you for free. What you are missing here is marketing. They will be your marketers. Thank you.
Wow. I appreciate Jeremiah. So William, let's give William the microphone right at the back there.
Chairman, as you give William.
Where is that voice from?
Thank you, Chairman. I know time is of essence, so I'll just be quick. I'm a consumer of all the services of the three boards, so I think it would be fair that I will give it just 2 minutes. My name is Kitinya Austin. I practice in a firm called Board Advocates LLP, but I'm also a procurement practitioner. Governor Iria, you mentioned something very interesting, and you said, you know, most of us think that the biggest problems we have are political problems and social problems. But then the biggest problem we have in the country is actually procurement problems. And I really agree with you fully. But then when I look at the architecture of procurement in Kenya, I start with even, you know, ministries. Procurement comes down. We don't even have a PS for procurement. I think we only have the directorate. Why can't we have a Ministry of Procurement and PPP? or at the very least, PS in charge of public procurement and PPP, you know, something of the sort. Then I look at the board, for example. We have a PPRB, Public Procurement Regulatory Authority, for example. The board members have no tenure of office. Governor Iria is here today. In the afternoon, you will see a gazette notice. Can't we have, we have DG. He has no tenure of office. Why can't we have a Public Procurement Regulatory Commission, just the way we have these other independent commissions? So that you do your job, you are very confident, we want to enhance transparency, accountability, and all these things, but I'm sure that my tenure in office is protected. Why don't we come up with something of this sort? We have review board. Today, QS Hussein is here. Tomorrow, there's a gazette notice, he's not there. Why can't we have some, you know, independence in terms of this review board, for example? So I just want to, you know, just to hear something from Governor about that. And then QS Hussein, I'm a frequent, I'm a consumer of the services of the review board. And I think I've appeared a number of times even before QS Hussein. QS, when we talk about transparency and ethics and these issues, and I know they come a lot during the hearings, how does the review board coordinate with the KISM and PPRA when, say, the review board has noticed that there are some ethical issues, not just supply chain alone, or procurement professional alone, but let's say engineers, QSs, and all, because all these things come in. So that we have some kind of network. We have rulings from the review board, but the review board notices that there are some professional misconduct, you know, when you are here in those cases. Then you refer them to the professional bodies, and you refer them to PPRA to take action. So PPRA can also say, KISM, take action, these are professional issues, can you take action? Or review board says, KISM, you are the professional body in charge of these professionals, can you take action? Or Architectural Association of Kenya, and something of the sort. Is there something of the sort? Are you working on something of the sort? And then I just wanted to hear your view, QS, about the proposed removal of, you know, the time limit. Because I know currently we have 21 for the review board, and then we have 45 days upon which the High Court and the Court of Appeal must hear and determine cases, procurement cases. But there's a proposal to remove these 45 days from the High Court, meaning we will be using the High Court procedure rules and Court of Appeal rules. So it can take whichever number of years to hear and determine a procurement matter. I just wanted to hear, you know, your view about that. And then, because of time, let me just give Chairman Amos one question. When we talk about procurement and procurement issues and corruption and ethics and all these things, if you look at Public Procurement Act, we have various actors. It is not just heads of procurement or procurement officials alone. Is there a way, Amos and KISM and PPRA DG, where we can come up with something, some kind of training for accounting officers, even CSS, governors, you know, the moment you're appointed as an accounting officer, then we have some kind of, say, 1 week mandatory training organized by, you know, KISM and PPRA, you know, just to train these accounting officers on ethics in procurement and, you know, just the overall view. Okay, are we able to work on something of this? So thank you.
Thank you so much, Kitinya. KK. Let's get William, and then this will be the last question. Go ahead, Sir William.
As we actually know about the impact of the media in terms of shaping opinions that eventually have a lot of negative impact in terms of the country's development agenda. But the second issue, and I think it's something that just a contribution, the role of public participation. Because when you look at the challenges that we faced in the last few years as a country, most of them are emanating from aspects of the public not being aware of what's taking place. So when the public is not aware, they are able to put in their own flesh and details into the gaps that are existing. So I think it's something that we really need to begin thinking about. How can we make the public is aware and is involved in whatever we do, like the privately initiated proposal. Let's look at something like, the PPPs that are going on. I think if the public are able to get information about what's happening, and I would wish to hear what PPRA is doing about even informing government in respect to that let the public just know that yes, we want to procure this, it's going to be this amount, and this is how we are arriving at that, and the public is continuously engaged to the extent that they don't have space for the media or other players who made negative for the government to sell their agenda on their own. Thank you.
Thank you so much, William. Bring the microphone to the front here. Where is our microphone guy? Just that'll be our last question, then we can wrap up.
Well, thank you very much. I'll be quick. My name is Charles Ruto from the Eldoret Poly. My question, I had had an engagement with the DG in the sidelines, but I thought for the benefit of my counterparts doing can benefit out of this. Now, as part of a reliever that was offered by the DG yesterday, we will be having a situation out of the circular that was released from the Executive Office of the President to support institutions due to non-release of capitation funds. Mostly, we've been having conferences coming to our facilities. By the way, we have a great facility at Eldoret Poly. You can always come in as part of government situations. Now, when you have a conference, you would come there. It's easy for you to procure off the system. But now, we would have a situation when procuring goods or other consumables that will be consumed in that conference. Now that in the EGP, you are required to plan as per that was provided for. You realize that you cannot plan for conferences. They only come, and when they come, you are supposed to procure. Now, how will we treat that going forward? Yeah, because currently we even have requests of members who are willing to come, but now how to procure the consumables, how to feed them becomes an issue. I would wish that DJ kindly respond on this one, because even in the full implementation of the EGP, we might find ourselves in situations because we must procure through the system and through what was planned for. Thank you very much.
Good. The DG will respond to that. Let's start with our chief guest today, His Excellency Governor Mwangi wa Iria, who has told you he's been around and about. He's been there, done that, got the T-shirt. So he's got, and he spoke from his heart this morning, and I think he can respond to many of the questions. Karibu Bwana Governor.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Someone talked about the positioning of procurement in the hierarchy of roles. And I think that's very fundamental, because the positioning defines influence. The amount of influence which you can exert depends on the positioning or the position which you hold within the hierarchy of roles. And that's a very fundamental question, because, procurement is a fairly, or supply chain, listened profession. It has always been there, but for a long time it was relegated into a section, a function within finance especially in those days. But it slowly took its position, and it is asserting its role and its position within the management, within the family of the broader management area. What you are saying is important. When I was a governor, because I have procurement background, actually my head of supply chain was a chief officer, DG.
Let's appreciate him for that. By the way, let me say this, he's the first governor who actually elevated supply chain to a chief officer. And many of you know James Kairu, who became the first chief officer heading supply chain, procurement guy. Now he's in NYS, and I'm sure that's the same guy. So let's appreciate Governor again.
Yeah, so it starts from there. And we need to start from the counties. We need to push them as a profession so that they can elevate procurement, the heads of supply chain into substantive roles. It's only that he or she cannot be a a minister for that matter, because that's a broader role. But minimum should actually be chief officer. And that actually can also be replicated when it comes to national level, whereby we have a PS whose critical responsibility is about procurement. So as a profession, we need to fight for our space. And I think that's a very important input. DG and the family of procurement, Kalani, that's something that we should be able to push. The other issue is on the security of tenure. I mean, we are the department which is entrusted with the spending public money. The Director General, is that the name, the title, for KLI, has security of tenure. Do they have? Huh? I don't know. But we have very many commissions or organizations whose directorships have security of tenure. They're even commissions. So we have to fight for the positioning of supply chain management. That is very important. Because you see, sometimes we are seen as the bad people out there because of the perception. And someone has alluded to the issue of communication. And that is the purpose of EGP. Because we are seen as a hidden society. You know, we are hidden. We are opaque. And everybody, including media, thinks that we are opaque because you have so many things to hide. You know, when you have things to hide, that's when you become mysterious, you even become opaque. So when we play an open game, open procurement, and that's where EGP is heading us to. When we start getting open, even the media will get the truth. Because when you're opaque, even if you explain to the media, they will not buy they'll give the dark story every time. Because there are things that they can't see. So EGP actually will contribute to positive media. If we engage media within the framework of EGP, they'll be able to see. They'll be able to tell the story, because if it's open, you can't lie about it. So but even if you call media conferences to explain to them how clean you are, how open you are, they'll still like the dark story. So it's within the framework of open procurement through EGP that now we can engage media and tell them, if you have a question, everything is there. Just raise the matter, we are going to deal with it. But important is we need to raise our profile. We need to take our space. We need to market ourselves. We need to claim our names and our image. And I think as a profession, Kalani and all the other players, we need a strategy which also positions us there. We need to turn the story around who they think we are into who we actually are. So we have to market ourselves. We must blow our own trumpet. And I think that's a challenge that we need to take up as the leaders within the profession. Thank you.
That's appreciable. Karibu sana, and thank you for your presentation earlier on. I think I heard my people saying it was wonderful. So respond to the questions you can.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kenya. There were a number of questions. First by Joshua, I believe, and then Mr. Kitinya. I will attempt to answer them, not necessarily in the order in which they were asked. The issue of regional panels. Now, PPRA, as you'll appreciate, is a board within the wider PPRA. We have an arrangement where the Public Procurement Regulatory Authority has an advisory board, which, of course, is chaired by Governor Iria. And at the same time, we have a review board which essentially deals with disputes, and that is where I come from. PPRA, in this regard, provides administrative support to the review board. And where we have wanted to expand our reach, we have worked hand in glove with the PPRA. I'm aware that PPRA has endeavored to expand its services all over the country. And in its previous strategic plans, the intention was to open regional offices in all the former provincial headquarters in the Republic of Kenya. Steps have been made. We have a regional office in Mombasa. There's also a regional office in Kisumu. There was one being established in Eldoret and Nakuru. Then eventually we'll cover all the former regional provincial headquarters where there is presence of PPRA. And when there is presence of PPRA in those places, there is also the presence of PPRB. Obviously, as you know, everything of that nature requires financial support. The constraints of budget has slowed down that process, but it's ongoing nevertheless. That, of course, has not restricted the reach of the board to the people of Kenya. The review board is able to handle matters from every corner of the Republic of Kenya. To be able to do that, we constitute ourselves into panels. The Act allows us to handle a matter with a membership of 3. That forms the quorum that will hear and determine any dispute. Out of the maximum 15 members provided for under the Act, we constitute ourselves into panels of 3 to be able to hear any matter. And in our case, we're able to hear matter from Lamu, from West Pokot, from Mandera, Kakamega, Busia, Nyeri, anywhere in the Republic. In the recent past, we have not had to get into physical presence in those locations. Thanks to the onset of COVID-19, as much as it was a problem, a health catastrophe to the country, there was a positive aspect to it. It enabled us to venture into the technological way of hearing and determining disputes. I'm sure most of you here who have appeared before the board in the recent past, especially in the last 2 years, you've not had to appear physically. You've had to appear electronically. We have a system where you're able to appear electronically, regardless of where you are in the Republic of Kenya, and your matter will be heard, and a decision will be rendered the same way it would if you appeared physically. And number 2 is on the full constitution, or the board fully being constituted with the 15 members. It's only until very recently that you were able to increase the membership of the board to beyond 12. For the longest time, it was actually 11. As you'll appreciate, the prerogative to appoint members, it lies with the government. So we've always had vacancies in the board, but these have now been progressively filled, and we are almost getting to the full capacity. That also helps us to constitute panels to hear and determine any matter. Glad to say, up to and until this point in time, there is not a single matter that has fallen through the cracks for want of a panel to hear it. All matters have been heard and determined within the mandatory period of 21 days. That then leads me to a question that was raised by Kitinya on the time limit, which there's a proposal to remove the 15-day time limit to hear cases that have gone to the courts. We have to look at what really is the objective, what was the genesis, what was the purpose of setting 15-day limit to hear and determine matters in courts. as practitioners in supply chain management, will appreciate that procurement of goods and services is a perishable good or as a perishable activity. You cannot delay it inordinately and still end up with the same thing. When you're procuring food supplies, for example, there's a need at that particular point in time. If you're procuring pens, you need to use them within a certain period of time. If you're procuring security services, they are needed. And so if there's delay, it means you're not going to have the security services, you're not going to procure medicine for the hospitals, and so on and so forth. So, what then happens? The thinking behind setting the time limit was to reduce the number of days it takes to resolve disputes so that procurement can proceed. And that is the reason, even when the disputes come before the review board, the board has to handle it and dispense with it within 21 days. Previously, it was 30 days, which was giving the board ample time to hear and render what we call reasoned decisions. But then it was felt 30 days were too many, and it was brought down to 21 days. But I can tell you now, even those who have practiced before the board, you will agree with me that there's not a single matter, not even one, where we have exceeded 21 days in the delivery of our judgment. So the question is, why should the courts not deliver appeals within 45 days? My honest view is they can. After all, the biggest of cases in the Republic of Kenya is a presidential petition at the Supreme Court. And how long does that take to be heard and determined? 12 days? So if we can hear a presidential petition and render judgment and have a president in 12 days, why are we not hearing a dispute involving procurement and render judgment in 45 days? There must be other considerations at play, which rightfully, as the practitioners in the field, you need to come in strong, lobby, and ensure that we do not remove that caveat of 45 days for the courts to determine any matters related to procurement. I will even hazard that indeed any matters that do with the economic disputes, they really must have a cap in terms of delivery of judgment. Because then if you don't have that cap, you're disadvantaging the disputants, those who are involved in the dispute. By the time you render your judgment, it's nugatory and of no effect. So we are at a place where I think it behoves all of us to just ensure that the nature of these disputes need to be resolved expeditiously and very, very quickly indeed. There was also the question on the procurement experts, whether we incorporate procurement experts in the decisions made at the review board. Yes, the law allows the board to incorporate experts of all nature, not just procurement experts, to give opinions on the issues at hand so that they can guide in the determination of the dispute. We have had cases where I've personally presided over. We have used IT experts when we have very complex issues involving ICT. We've had engineers, and we also have auditors to guide us through all those financial statements and jargon that relate to issues of a technical nature. Now, more specifically on procurement, we are fortunate that our board, by its very establishment, has procurement people within it. The secretary to the board has a procurement background. That is already a plus for us. Those who handle cases, or they're called case analysts, they are all procurement experts. Then, of course, on the side of the parties, whenever the parties come, procuring entities invariably will have procurement people backing up the advocates or lawyers who are fronting their cases. So we have a lot of benefit that we derive from the participation of people with a procurement background in the decisions that we make. Another question was on the cases that are escalated to the High Court. And under Section 175 of the PPRA, any aggrieved party has a right to approach the High Court for judicial review, or they can go there on appeal. Most of the times, it's actually through judicial review, where a party will go to argue that they were not done justice, if you like, by the board. Now, we have always documented those cases that go for judicial review, and we have always given, and we have statistics to show which cases succeed in the High Court and which ones fail in the High Court. And I can tell you that the majority of the cases, and the statistics will bear me out, the High Court most times agrees with us. In the majority of cases, it has agreed with us. The statistics are there. We publish them on our website. They are available. We probably may not have been up to date with the cases that go to the Court of Appeal, but that's a Commonwealth noted, and I think we're going to take it up so that we are up to date with the cases that permeate the whole realm of the judiciary ladder, even up to the Supreme Court. But rarely do we have our matters going up to the Supreme Court. And if they do, we will need to pick those ones up. I think, yes, on networking. Networking is an important thing here. KISM, PPRA, PPRB, or professional associations, there is collaboration. And the Director General, Mr. Njuki, will agree to this. A lot of times, we refer matters to the Director General of PPRA, especially when we feel that those matters almost touch on policy issues of procurement, or they are repeated cases, what we call repeated offense cases, and they require an approach now from the PPRA level. So when we render decision, and some of you may have seen this, because it's on a case-by-case basis, we'll give directions, and one of the directions will be to refer this matter to the Director General of PPRA with a view to doing ABCD, and we do that from time to time. There are very few cases where the escalation is not just to the Director General of PPRA, but to even agencies outside our field of operation. We have had instances where we'll make reference to the Office of Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, or even the DCI, so that if there is a criminal element being disclosed, PPRB is not the competent authority to inquire into that, but those other agencies should and would. So we make reference in that regard. I think I have responded to the bulk of the questions, and I do appreciate the comments that have come from the floor. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sir. 1 minute for Sir Amos to just also close up.
Thanks, Chairman. I think I had only one question from Comrade KK, and the question was that there are very many procurement issues in our processes, and he also further stated that is it possible that we come up as regulators within the profession, is it possible to come up with training specifically for accounting office? And I think That's a very valid question, comrade. I want to say that thank you. I want to say that it's a very valid question because when you look at the journey that we've had as a profession, from the days of the National Treasury seminars, to the current PPADA, it's been a very remarkable journey. But I also want to say that we are a very young profession compared to other professionals. But away from the accounting officers, I also want to acknowledge that there are other professionals who also play within the process. We have people like the evaluation committees. We have the disposal committees who are not necessarily members of the profession. And so I think it's very right. Your question is very valid. Because ours is actually a landmine. We operate like in a landmine. And there's a lot of vested interests in the processes of procurement. And so it would only be right that as we look back at the journey, then we look at how do we equip those who operate with us, the other stakeholders that operate within the process, not necessarily accounting officers. How do we, for example, come up with a training like, the accountants came up with a training some years back called Finance for Non-Finance Managers. So basically to equate managers who, because they handle finance matters, so that they're also well equipped with finance knowledge. I think it is, time is ripe, the stakeholders are all here, and so I think it's food for thought. It is, that is the right way to go, because as you look at our journey has been very remarkable. We've gone through so many phases in the process of our evolution, and I think that is part of what we need to look at. And as KISM prepares for, KISM and KISEB, as we prepare for our training calendars, I think it is right time that we also look at how do we also equip our other operators? How do we equip our stakeholders who also operate within the sphere? That because, when whatever they do, we are still held accountable. And by the way, most of the time when there is an issue, the person who is most talked about ill is actually the procurement officer. But is it necessarily that the procurement officer is the one at fault? The procurement officer is just the secretary to the evaluation committee. But when things go south, he's the first one with the accounting officer who actually pulled to the roving doors. Huh? Is it rolling or roving? Revolving doors. So we need to equip our stakeholders to ensure that they support us in the processes, because when they are well equipped, knowledge is power. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. DJ, I think there was one question for you. You can give him the microphone. Somewhere here. Yeah, there. Okay. Then we can wrap it up. Sorry, guys, and thank you for your patience, but we're coming to a close.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, there was a question from Ruto from the Eldoret National Polytechnic, and the issue he has, how does he deal with the question of non-budgeted procurements, which arises because of either you get guests to the university or the polytechnic, which were not budgeted for. The secret is one, have framework contracts in place. Have your procurement process budgeted with hindsight from you must be having a business development manager who projects what would you be expecting. But the fact that you have a framework contract in place, it helps you that you can take in new procurement items as long as there is a budget that is confirmed by virtue of that procurement process, or rather the revenue that is going to be generated. But we don't expect that we'll be having a budget at the beginning of the year indicating that these groups will come, but at least have a projection. In certain situations, I would like to still point out, say like Kenya National Trading Corporation, which deals with the goods which are user-driven. They are not entity-driven. Those cannot be procurement under the interpretation of public procurement. That is trade and commercial for that purpose. Seek approval from National Treasury in such cases for specially permitted procurement procedure, so that you remove that kind of procurement from what the law provided. This law was not intended to deal with commercial entities. It was intended to deal with consumption procurement. But as you know, we have all along led into problems for many to interpret the intention of the law. I would like to leave it at that. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, DG. Let's appreciate DG. Let's appreciate our chairman. I think our time is fast spent. Asanteni sana. Unless you have a burning issue. Thank you so much, chairman. And can have our seats as we now come to a close. Thank you so much. And sorry. We have a gift for each one of you, which I think we'll do. Let's do it as we wrap up. Let's just so that we save time. Thank you so much. We'll call you just now. Ladies and gentlemen, I have a long speech here, but I'll not read it. Like my fellow chair from KISM said, we can see people are tired, and it's clear that we really have to come to a close. And I really want to appreciate each one of you as members, distinguished guests, and our fellow chairman who've been here for having been part of this discussion. Our theme has been and continues will be for prosperity, procurement, and supply chain as a catalyst for national transformation, which has served as our clarion call for us to redefine the way we approach supply chain. And I like the word Diego said, I'm really getting out of, and I think my former colleague, Chair Mwangi of Iria, says we have come from buying to purchasing to procurement, and now it's called supply chain. The only one who links everybody. Chain, there's a reason why. Over the last few days, we've had a very robust engagements and exchange innovative ideas and reflective, we've reflected deeply on the challenges and opportunities that we face today. Our discussions have underscored the strategic importance of supply chain, not merely as an administrative function, but as a critical enabler that influences economic growth and competitiveness, social well-being at every level of our country. Ladies and gentlemen, as we come to a close, I want to recap a few things that have emerged out of this program, our shared commitment to transforming supply chain practices and lay out key policies, policy recommendations, which the CEO has shared earlier on, to propel our nation forward. How can we become not just the victims, but indeed the architects of the way forward? We have heard how innovative technologies like e-procurement, when appropriately integrated, can ensure transparency, accountability, and indeed efficiency in our procurement supply chain processes. And also, we've also had a long discussion around ethics, integrity, and oversight, which has been a big issue about the trust quotient, that is the trust deficit, as it were. We've also, equally significant, is our growing recognition that the modernization of supply chain practices directly influences our ability to deliver essential services, stimulate local industry, and attract meaningful investments, and the challenges highlighted around EGP notwithstanding. Therefore, the call for addressing the trust deficit is a big one, and I cannot even do any more than what our governor said. The profession calls upon us as supply chain people to redefine the narrative, rebuild the trust, the lost trust, like our PPRB Commissioner Were said, lost trust that through deliberately acting in an ethical behaviors and in a manner ensuring transparency, how can we deliberately, intentionally now change that narrative? So, ladies and gentlemen, as we leave out here, what are the questions that we must go at? What are we doing in our different spheres of influence to rewrite a different story, to change the narrative in our organizations that where we work? So how can we change the narrative that has bedeviled our profession for too long? We must do our part individually and collectively to change the narrative. Secondly, the forum has also highlighted the challenges associated with the ACPO rollout, which you all know we are a critical part of that, specifically discussions on beneficial ownership. Whereas this forum recognizes the comprehensive supply chain reforms is not just a policy issue, but rather a strategic imperative. It is important that we, as people who drive this initiative, allow for further inquiry into the beneficial ownership, into the beneficiaries beyond just accepting paperwork, and ensure that our reach rolls out. So thirdly, as I come to a final point here, how can we as build resilient supply chains, which is a fundamental key to national transformation. Our country, we are focusing, developing integrated frameworks, not only increase agility, the need for us to be agile and responsive, but also need to ensure responsiveness in times of crisis. Colleagues, as we come to the close, building networks with regional and global partners will be critical. And we as KISM are doing that part. How can we ensure that we networks have highly networked economy, network country, and we cannot be left behind that. We must work proactively to eliminate bottlenecks, streamline regulatory processes, and more importantly, when the opportunity presents itself, we must make comments on the bill and let us put together all the responsive mechanisms we need to ensure that we future-proof our profession. Finally, we must not shy away from really highlighting the need for career growth, wellness, and self-building. His Excellency Governor Mwangi of Iria told you how he was just a junior guy. He rose to the highest offices as a governor. That's only the second highest office in the land, starting from a procurement officer, a salesperson, and finally a governor. So it is possible to now make, as his colleague from Muranga once said, the tools we have gathered over the course of this time, especially the soft skills that came from Dr. Wale Akinyemi and Bwana David Oshiani, must be the things that we take away from here. How can we repackage ourselves? How can we rebrand ourselves, knowing that we are just as good as the brand we are? How do you package yourself as an individual? It's not what you do, but who you are. As the forum close to an end, therefore, let us remember that the transformation we seek is not the product of isolated initiatives, but the outcome of sustained collaborative actions. It is our collective ambition, creativity, and perseverance that will pave the way toward a more prosperous, resilient, and inclusive nation through supply chain management. We have the opportunity and indeed the responsibility to reimagine the supply chain systems and networks to better serve our nation and those who count on us. And as His Excellency said, EGP is here to stay. We'll work with PPRA, National Treasury, to ensure we be a solution provider. It's actually what we've been all waiting for. And if we do, I can tell you the reason why it was put a bang. The leadership of this country knows that if we do piecemeal transition, it will never happen. And that's why there was that big bang. And let us therefore embrace it fully, knowing that it's something that is here to stay. The government is here to really fully digitize our economy. Let's do our part. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, there's a book that I really want to recommend, which I'm sure many of you will know about this book, about leadership. If you are not a leader, you are not a leader before you get the title. So there's a book that says, The Leader Who Had No Title by Robin Sharma. That's what Dr. Wale Akinyemi talked about, says that it's not a title which makes you a leader. It is who you really become, and then work on that. So the powerful bridge, therefore, that we've been told today of these people in this room here, is called supply chain, that builds the national, the connection between the GDP of this country and finally how we use that to our advantage. There's something here that I want to leave you as we close, as His Excellency Governor says, how can we as supply chain professionals change the narrative, contribute to changing the negative, and I call it the trust deficit. Let us determine not to remain the same, knowing that what got us here will not get us there. What's your legacy? It's never too late to create a right legacy. Remember that we are always writing our personal story, our professional story, our institutional story by what we do every day, knowing that we are here for a season and only for a reason. Let us therefore become champions, as I urge each one of you to champion a model of supply chain excellence defined by innovation, integrity, and resilience. Above all, let us work together to realize our shared vision, a future where procurement and supply chain management serve as a shining beacons for national transformation. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your active participation, insightful contributions, and unwavering dedication. I look forward to a continued collaboration so that we finish the year strong and finish the journey of our professional bodies individually strong. That is what will count. What are you leaving behind? What do we bequeath the next generation? For those few remarks, thank you for your patience, and God bless you all. Asanteni sana. CEO, who is giving vote of thanks?
Thank you. So it has been a busy week, a successful one for that matter. And I wish to go straight to give a vote of thanks on behalf of the council. So, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed, on behalf of the KISM Council, we wish to thank you most sincerely for finding time to join this year's edition of the Heads of Procurement Forum. From the onset, we convey our sincere gratitude to our parent ministry, the National Treasury, for the invaluable support that has culminated to the success of this conference. We thank the CS, the PS, and the Director of Public Procurement for the support provided towards this conference. We also thank our sister institutions, that is PPRA, KISM, and PPRB, for the good collaboration and logistical support for the success of the conference. The presidents and attendance by the leadership of these institutions has been incredible, and we sincerely thank you for the open and candid conversations that we have had. Definitely, we shall work together in the rollout of the policy initiatives arising from this conference and beyond. The essence of this conference is to provide a platform for the professionals, the heads of procurement, to discourse on matters of great importance for the profession. We therefore thank you, heads of procurement, for creating time to be here, for sharing feedback and proposals that will aid the profession. Finally, we thank all stakeholders, especially the sponsors, donors, and the hotel facility for the great hospitality. The success of this conference has been God-guided, and we thank God for His grace, favor, and during this conference, for His grace and favor during this conference. Through Him, we have delivered together. As I conclude, I also wish to thank our CEO, Mr. Kenneth Matiba, and the Secretariat for the good job that they have been able to do. Please continue being the steward of good service. I convey our appreciation as a council to the speakers and resource persons. They were all great and wonderful. May God bless you. May God bless KISM. May God bless Kenya. And thank you very, very much. As it has been the case, we have had some gifts, some vouchers here. We want to gift the lucky participants as we conclude.